So this past week, is audio working? I don't even know. Nobody's here. It's the holiday. It's Saturday. So I don't even know what works. But, and this past week, I just been hanging out at the casino, and it sucks because there's nothing to do. You know, here's what happens with holidays. Everybody's with their family. So in the couple days leading up to Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, nobody's watching. And so there's a conflict between the amount of energy and effort that was required to go into producing a show versus what's being done, like how many people are watching. And so it's tough because, you know, to the dedicated fans and viewers of your show, you're like, those are the ones who deserve it the most, that we're going to make sure we work through these holidays. And then you owe your family. And your family and your friends want to do something. So this Thanksgiving, you know, we had a Friendsgiving, kind of. We went out and got nice food, and it was cool. And then, you know, we're doing family stuff as well, so it's like an extended break. And I think most of you get it. So we took off Wednesday, additionally, Thursday and Friday. I think last year we did Thursday and Friday. And the challenge is nobody's working, and you can't really expect people to work through it. But even if you want to, it's like, what are you going to do? So, you know, I'm not going to go to the employees at Timcast, the writers, and be like, guys, we have to work through Thanksgiving. No. Like, you know, go be with your family. I think about why we do any of this, and like, why do we do any work? And I was talking about this last week with, you know, fighting a bear. And then somebody was like, Tim thinks you can kill a bear by shoving your arm down its throat. And I was like, it was a joke. It's based on like a story about a guy who killed a wolf that way. But I'm making a point, like, why would a man want to fight a bear? You know, if the bear is chasing after him, he can flee, he can run away, he can try to escape. But what would make a man be driven to fight a bear is to protect his family, the people he loves and cares about, or, you know, and that could be his community. It could be his neighbors. And so without community, without family, like, what's the point of all of this anyway? And so what it comes down to is like, it's Thanksgiving, man. Go do your thing, go be with your family. Because this is the time of year where all the hard work pays off. That, you know, even if you're arguing with your family about politics, this is the time where you get to reap the rewards. Not everybody, you know, of course. And the world is far from perfect. But then we get a month from now into Christmas, and it's like, I like Christmas way more, by the way. And then New Year's. And so it's like, it's also really difficult to book people. And so I'm just like, we're gonna take off Wednesday. We didn't want to. We were going to have Elad Eliyahu on the show, so apologies, Elad, that we had to cancel and you couldn't come on. But it's just, you know, Luke was going to see his family, and you know, a bunch of people wanted to, you know, so it is what it is. But it's perfect time for a bunch of drama. And what I've been dealing with this past holiday has been death threats and that kind of stuff. But I figure I'll just hang out, and you know, I'll just hang out. Long story short, I haven't worked all week. I'm really bored. And so I'm like, I've been waking up and just sitting there. I've been playing Spelunky, and I'm like, not working sucks. But at the same time, you got to like, I'm a workaholic, want to constantly be building something no matter what it is. So I have been working behind the scenes. More importantly, Cassandra Fairbanks has been working behind the scenes. She wrote a story about Kanye West. Kanye actually retweeted it. Amazing work. Cassandra's a boss. One of my best friends. She's amazing. And, for me, I just been chilling. And so I went to the casino. You know, we had a Friendsgiving. We had really good food. I was at the casino, and I'm just like sitting there bored. And I want to give a shout out to a couple people. And I was playing something called Mississippi Stud. And I was down a lot. And I was like, oh, this is so brutal. Like, I'm getting raked over the coals. Like, how is this possible? And then this dude on the other side of the pit, he's like, Tim, what up? You know, I'm like, oh, hey, what up, man? And then I was like, you doing good over there? And he was like, yup. And I'm like, I'm getting killed. And he's like, come on over. This was one of the coolest days ever. So I shout out, guys, you know who you are. And I went over and sat next to him. We were playing 3-card poker. And I decided to play 2 hands. I think it was like a $10 minimum or something. So it's like, you're basically with the bonuses spending like $25 per hand. And then I got like 2 straights. And so that's bonus. It's like you end up winning like $70. And I'm like, what? Or no, I think you win like 100. And then, what is it? You get 10, then what is it? $30 and then 30. So 60, you get like 80 plus your bet back. And then, this is the craziest thing. I got a straight flush. I was like ready to leave. And I'm like, guys, it's so late. This was awesome. You know, I'm breaking even. And then I put a quarter down on on the pair plus bonus, $25 a quarter. That's what they call them in the casinos. I know it's kind of brutal, right? $25, it's a quarter. And a straight flush hits, and that's $1,000. And I was just, it's never happened to me before. I've never won that, like, I've gotten big wins before, but I've never gotten a straight flush like that. So all in all, I was like, wow, high five. And then tossed everybody a black chip because I'm like, I'm not here to, get rich. I'm here to have fun and hang out. And like, I'm super bored on the holidays. So, one of the reasons I'm just trying to chill and forget about everything is that over the past, week and a half, there have been just a copious number of death threats. And people are posting what they think is my address, and it's not. And posting pictures of what they think is my house, and it's not. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? Elon Musk has started banning a bunch of these Antifa accounts finally. And now they're all freaking out. They're like, Andy, is getting us banned, and Elon's siding with the far right. Blah, 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 blah. But they're posting like it's a meme of like a little duck with an address, and they think it's where I live, and I don't. And they're posting a picture of a house, and they're like, look at this house. And I'm like, the craziest thing is, the picture they're posting is like this tiny little like I don't. It's crazy. They're posting this like tiny little house, and I'm like, guys, like that's not my house. But they're tweeting that, and it's like I think there's been like dozens of stories written about me because I called out inappropriate behavior targeting children or whatever. And I kind of feel bad that I'm even getting mentioned in the same phrase, in the same sentences as Matt Walsh, James Lindsay, or Libs of TikTok. I'm like, guys, I tweeted one thing. Like, I do not regularly talk about this stuff. I don't focus on it. I am not the leading activist calling it out, but we talk about it. And I'm like, I do a series of tweets where I'm like, stop calling for violence. Like, it's really bad. And they wrote me into it. So it's like, all right, fine, whatever. I even had some like dude call me. And so this has been a big bit of drama for us, I guess. My attitude always is I just ignore it. I live in MAGA country. Some people actually have a general idea of where I'm at, but we say we're in the tri-state in Western West Virginia and Western Maryland. And so they think they know where I live, but it's like, the crazy thing is, like, they're going to get somebody killed, and it's not going to be me. And that's the scary thing, because I don't want someone else to get hurt, but they don't understand that there are ways of protecting where you live, and really, really easy ways done by like every single, like not even rich people, just like a lot of people will, take precautions to protect their private information when it comes to their houses, if they're like, to varying degrees. And it is what it is. But so this has been my week, and I've been thinking about philosophy a lot. So I decided I'm sitting here bored. I can't just sit around playing Spelunky and then maybe hitting up the casino again. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I'm just staring at my computer. And I was like, I've been thinking about philosophy and relationships and the threats and like what they mean and why they come. And, obviously my family is really, really worried about the threats. And that's what they want to happen. So congratulations, you got that. But I'm not. I have guns. And, I live in MAGA country, so, I tweeted about this. I'm like, the idea that some Antifa soy boy is going to show up to the MAGA country mountains, like literal mountains of West Virginia, where I am like, my actual house is surrounded by right-wing nut jobs. And I mean that as a term of endearment. Shout out. Like, I am not worried about any of this. The funny thing is, like, to the people where I live, I'm the leftist. And y'all who watch know that. You're like, yep, Tim's not a conservative. And I'll be like talking to them. They'll be like, well, I think you're wrong about that. But, respect. And that's an interesting thing, too, about, we had Milo on. And Milo said something like, I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but fighting for something similar or something like that. And I thought about that, and I was like, I think Milo and I are actually fighting in a similar direction, but for very different things. But like our worldviews are tolerable of each other despite being in disagreement. So what I should say is, like, obviously there's some things that we agree on with like Trump and stuff like that, but I've never been like the staunchest pro-Trump MAGA hat wearing guy. I've just been like, Trump is clearly the better option. And these days it's like, maybe it's DeSantis, maybe it's Trump. DeSantis for a lot of reasons, we'll see. And Milo is very much like, no DeSantis. So, the way I see it is like, if the Trump brigade, MAGA country, all that stuff took over, I'd be like, well, I'll be arguing with you, but we get along peacefully. And I think, obviously the media wants to lie about what Trump supporters and the right actually want to do. And it's funny because most of these, Trump people and right wingers don't even protest. So the idea that they would go out and do anything violent, it's like, oh, they're crazy people. Crazy people do crazy violent things for sure. But like the average conservatives probably just wants to be left alone. And so things are, starting to get crazy with the escalation. And anyway, yeah, so I was thinking about that. And, all the drama results in people trying to target me and my family. And that's the thing, so I guess to go back to the mountain thing with the house. I'm in this neighborhood, I'm in these areas where it's West Virginia. The people there are like endearingly called by other people right-wing nut jobs. Like as a gag, it's like they're taking back the phrase. But what they mean is like, these are people who have like MAGA flags, Trump flags, FJB and stuff like that. If someone posted that they were going, all the stuff that's going on, I'll say this: people are saying, and it's worrying too, to a certain degree. They're like, oh boy, make my day. And I'm like, no, guys, like you don't want to make my day. Like that kind of idea. The idea is people are actually under the let me try and be careful, like make sure I phrase this properly when I say it the first time. They're ready. And they're like, anybody who wants to come and threaten my, place, these Antifa guys, these far left extremists, they're going to regret it. And I'm like, yes, but we want to make sure law enforcement handles everything. So my biggest fear is these dumb young people, these dumb Antifa people, they really don't understand that if they show up into West Virginia, if you cross onto someone's private property and you're in Antifa gear, like they have a right to defend their property, themselves and their family, and every reason to assume you mean to do harm. I'm worried what that results in, and I don't want. So like, I just say this, like, I'm not worried about the threats or anything like that. Because my attitude is like, you showing up is a bigger risk to you, and I'm trying to protect you. I have zero fear at all. Not only am I armed, especially, I live in West Virginia, constitutional carry state, but I'm surrounded by people who are like 10 times more armed than I am. And that's funny because like conservatives are like, I shouldn't say conservatives, gun aficionados. There was a video someone made and it was like correcting, calling Tim out on like stopping power. And then I thought the video was fun. I didn't watch it. Someone sent it to me and I was just like, dude, I don't know anything about guns. Like I am not a gun guy. I'm like very staunchly pro 2A because I think we need to understand the rules by which we can all agree to abide by and everything. So I know like very little about guns. And I know like more than the average person, obviously. I can tell you certain things. But like, I can't even, it's like we're talking about crew served. We were calling them belt fed machine guns and people like they're called crew served machine guns. And I'm like, bro, I don't know. I read a news article that was talking about Nancy Pelosi wanting those big guns that the belt feeds into. I don't even know what kind of round they use. And then people told me things in Super Chat. I'm like, I don't even know. So, anyway, all that stuff's going on. And there's been some stuff that I've been tweeting, and it's funny. It's like it's so crazy that everybody thinks everything is about. They think they know everything. I don't mean that in the sense of like everybody thinks they're the smartest person. What I mean is when someone hears something, they apply their worldview to what they hear and then make an assumption that that thing applies to their worldview. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm saying that's like just like a kind of thing that humans do. And so, I've tweeted a few things. I tweeted, one of the things about being successful is that you learn who your real friends are and you learn who's truly evil. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people start talking and saying it's about this person or that person, this company or this individual. And it's just not, but this is like normal drama stuff. If you're watching a particular channel or a person on Twitter and they say something and then I say something in a broad sense, like let's say you follow a person named like Guy Fawkes on Twitter. You follow him. He has the same name as Guy Fawkes for whatever reason. And he says, Tim, you're so dumb. And then I tweet something like, man, when you get successful, you learn who your real friends are. Everyone's like, whoa, Tim's talking about Guy Fawkes. It's like, no, I mean, I might be, but probably not. Because, some people point out that I avoid drama at all costs. And they're correct. So, I'll talk about drama. And I'll talk about my worldview, and then I'll talk to the people in the chat. I don't care too much for, I don't want to make this thing like a specific super chat thing. We do super chats like with IRL mostly because they're static, they stay there, and I respect that people are putting up money because they want their comment to be seen. We can't read every single thing, and sometimes I read regular comments or whatever. But Anyway, so I'll answer questions and we'll just talk about whatever, and I'll answer whatever. And I was thinking, we could talk about. I just thinking about philosophy. There may be something in the works that could radically, it would be crazy for us, dangerous for us. We're looking at expansion of this company, and there's just these milestones that happen where it's like, if we make this move, it changes everything. And then I take stock of where everything's come from and where it's at now, and all the hardships and everything that happened along the way. And that's why I say, like, you really learn who your friends are. I was thinking about, actually, I was in the casino, and they were playing Mo Money, Mo Problems. That's a classic song. The more money we come upon, the more problems we see. And then I started thinking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk announced that he's going to be, how do you phrase this? Granting general amnesty at some point next week or something like that on Twitter. And I'm so excited. I really am. Shout out to Carl Benjamin, man. That was something truly amazing. And it instantly made me be like, okay, I like this Elon Musk guy. Because Carl is the guy. People, say stuff like Tim got his start because of Joe Rogan. It's not true. Carl Benjamin. Shout out to Sargon. He's a good friend. He's a good person. He's very intelligent, and I learned a lot from him. And I mentioned this before. I left Fusion, this ABC Univision company, and I had like 20,000 subscribers on YouTube just because I had a small following, and I was making videos. And then I had a big success by going to Sweden. And then afterwards, it like tapers off. It was like a big spike in the news, and this stuff happens. But it was Carl who asked me to produce a segment for his channel, and he had 300-something-thousand subs. And I was like, bro, I don't know what to say. Like, I just was walking around Berkeley and filming what was going on. And so I made this video that ended up doing really well. I think got a couple 100,000 views. And then I think that might be what pushed me over 100K. I'm not sure if I remember exactly. You can probably correlate the date the video was published, but it was a huge boost. I remember like looking at the real-time subs, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a silver play button. And it was Carl who started watching my coverage and thinking like, this guy's like actually trying to do journalism and be fair. And then we became good friends, as good as friends you can be for a dude who lives in the UK. And but we hung out at several events, and it was really awesome. He got banned from Twitter, and then Elon brought him back, and I'm like, this is amazing. So anyway. Elon announced the amnesty stuff, and then I said, we're going to set up all of our company corporate accounts and staff accounts with verified, the ones who need it, and Twitter Blue, so they get access to those features under two circumstances. The first is that he provided amnesty, he freed the political prisoners, which he's doing. And the other was that there's going to be features that are actually worth paying for. I'm not just going to give the dude money, just because. But, there are features that verified users get, and if he does it right, okay. The official verification, I roll my eyes at, because it's basically two verifications. But I want Timcast News to get that as well, if any other news outlet's going to get it. But anyway, yeah, we're going to give all of our core talent, all of our shows, we're going to get them verified. And so we'll probably end up spending, look, if we have like 30 accounts, a couple $100, $200, $300 maybe, per month, on this infrastructure for our company. And it's a decent amount, but it doesn't break the bank in terms of the infrastructure costs we have elsewhere. Yeah, financial transactions, that's a hefty cost. But parallel economy is absolutely amazing. And aside from being anti-censorship, so for those that aren't familiar, when you're a member at timcast.com, it's parallel economy, which is Dan Bongino's company. The rates are lower. It's just better. But those fees are expensive. Internet is insanely expensive. People don't get it. Like, to have a reliable internet, not get it cut off, and want to do high definition streams is like really expensive. But yeah, I'm excited for Twitter and this general amnesty, and it feels like we're coming back. So shout out to Elon Musk. I forgot why I started talking about Elon, but let's talk about with Sargon and how things got started, and then we'll talk about the lessons I've learned. Mo money, mo problems. Listen to that song. That's what it was. I think about Elon Musk. The reason I brought up Elon is because people started pointing out that clearly Elon's not doing any of this for money. He's driven, and he started PayPal. Yeesh. Okay, but I'm glad he was successful because I like what he does now. Space travel. That, me and Elon, I believe in him. I was thinking about this too. People ask me, is there, who did you look up to? Who do you admire? I'm like, I don't admire and look up at anybody. But I can't say that's true for Elon. I absolutely admire the man now because I've been complaining about this for a while. Where are the powerful individuals to take a stand and stand up for the values of meritocracy and individuality and liberty? And there are people who do, of course. I'm not saying no one does. But Elon, man, that dude really took a great risk. It's clear that he's doing stuff because he wants to do it. So, I respect. But that's why I bring up the Mo Money, Mo Problems. Anyway, going back to that. I remember when I was younger and I heard that song and I would talk about it with my friends and they would say stuff like, it really is stupid. Like, we understand there are headaches involved in money, but like, seriously, worse than not having healthcare and all that stuff. True. It's true. When you're broke and you can't afford a broken bone or you can't afford insulin, it's like, yeah, Mo Money, Mo Problems, my ass. But it is true that Mo Money, Mo Problems. Something happens. And I can't remember who we had on. We were talking to somebody. I can't remember who it was. And they said that something in the psychology of individuals change based on like class and hierarchy. And I wonder if this has something this overlaps with Jordan Peterson's ideas about lobsters and natural hierarchy that exists in biology. And that people view social status as a natural hierarchy. So, basically what I mean by Mo Money, Mo Problems is, things that probably wouldn't matter to you and your family get turned into nightmare scenarios when you're more successful. Everybody comes out of the woodwork. That's a saying that's a saying they have about people who win the lottery, people who become successful. And I think this is a reason why people who win the lottery like break down and have problems, though things have been changing, they've been figuring out. The one lesson I've had in success is that everyone around you all of a sudden says they're owed something. And you have to wonder, do I owe, like I got to take care of people. I do owe them something. Like, I don't deserve this. So there's a few restaurants around here that we go to, and I'll give a shout out. Final Cut Steakhouse, we love them. They're at the casino, and Dutch's Daughter, we love them. It is just so good, and I always tip massively, like massively, and I don't do it for favors. I do it because you're supposed to, because you have to, and because we can. Because if you can't, then you don't. And so that's one of the most frustrating things about life. I go to a restaurant, I tip really big, and they say, "You're so great to us, you're always welcome." And I'm like, it shouldn't be that way. Like, my ability to do a big tip it's proportional. A middle income family that wants to eat at a fancy restaurant that one time, that's who I think should get the real praise. You're making $50,000 a year and you want to go to a place that's like $50 a plate. And it's very, very hard for your family to do, but you really want something nice for your family. So you do, and you're treated just like another customer. I don't blame the restaurants for this. It's just the way life is. And then I show up and I have this big company, and with all of your support, we've been so successful. And so I'm like, I have to make sure I'm giving back, because like, who am I to deserve and be above? I hate elitism and all that stuff. But then you get treated better because people like that you give them money, and I get it. That's the reality. You get a problem with American Airlines. Here's a story. I have executive platinum, with American Airlines, and the flight gets canceled. I get a special phone number to call. Ooh, executive platinum. Not concierge is their true top tier. But they skip me in front of the line. They get me a first class seat, and they say, "You're one of our best customers. We take care of you." And that's loyalty. So I get it. I do. I just hate the way that it's that way. But in reality, what happens is this. You might not be executive platinum, but there is one way you get your way: when you have Twitter followers. And that to me is just like, it's so insane that we've created this numerical value to social worth that, I get kicked off a plane. I shouldn't put it that way. I should say, like, the plane gets blocked, there's the storm, or it's canceled. And then I just put up a tweet like, hey, American Airlines, like, what's going on? I can't, get a plane ticket. Oh, I get a phone call in 2 seconds. We've taken care of you. And that's a problem with this world. It's a problem that breeds cancel culture. They're scared of 1.4 million followers on Twitter, that I could say something naughty, nasty about them, and then they will be hurt by it. And that freaks me out. They should just want to do right by their customers. And we should just have to recognize that, like, we wait in line. That's community. You got here first, man. Do your thing. But I guess the reality is that some people are more important than others. And I know a lot of people might say that that's a harsh thing to say, but the guy who runs the factory and knows, or the scientist who has the cure for cancer is more important than the janitor. But I don't mean like life worth or anything like that. I just mean like in terms of curing cancer. You know what I mean? It's one of the questions in the trolley problem. If there's, they say, let's say one person on a track and 5 people on a track, you guys know the trolley problem. Would you pull the lever to save the 5 people who killed the 1 person? And there's many variants. One is there's 2 men, or there's 5 men on one track, and there's 1 man, but that man has the cure for cancer, So letting the 5 people die. Or it's like the train is going to run over the 1 man who has the cure for cancer, but you can pull the lever and run over 5 people. It's like a brutal question. So I feel like because of that, this is always going to be that way. And we can try to escape it and claim that there's some utopian world we can live in communism. It's never going to happen. Because some people will just work their fingers to the bone. Some people will jump on a landmine, a grenade, to save their friends and family. Some people will run to burning buildings. Some people will put on a badge and go into the most dangerous neighborhoods to try and save a woman who's being beaten by an ex lover who's gone rogue. And some people will go to war to defend what they believe in. I do feel like we're losing a lot of that. Community is breaking down. But there are some people who are like, there are other people who are more important than I am. And there are some people that will always hate you. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, there is nothing you can do about it. Big corporations learn this lesson. So when drama erupts, they don't say anything. I worked for Vice. There was let me just, we'll be as transparent can be. There was a guy who worked for Vice who was accused of rape because he went on a podcast and said that he raped somebody. And I said, get rid of this guy. That's a crazy thing to be behind. And they were worried. And so, I think ultimately what their play was like, we're going to say nothing. It was like he claimed it wasn't a true story, that he was trying to be edgy on a podcast. It has nothing to do with the company at large, and why should they be involved? So just keep your mouth shut. This is the number 1 PR strategy. Never address conflict, controversy, or drama. So I've been involved in some lawsuits. I don't tweet about them. It's bad legal strategy, but also I don't think you care. And so, I'll mention this. People wonder why there are a lot of channels that do drama, and we don't really. And it's because there's a lot of people watching right now. It's a Saturday morning holiday hangout. Welcome to a free podcast or whatever you want to call it. I'm not even recording it. It's just live with about 12,000 people watching. If I were to come and start talking about like this beef I had with some person you never heard of, you'd be like, what is this show? And so that's why I try to tell people like drama isn't a path towards a successful show. Unless you're trying to be a TMZ. It works if you want to do drama. But if you want to do a show and you want to be in the political fray, then you have to just stay away from it. And that's my advice to all channels. Because, imagine if we did Timcast IRL and we get we average, I think, like 40 to 45 thousand live viewers or whatever. Not the biggest we've ever had. We in election season of 2020, January, I think, may have been one of our biggest months. Our biggest month ever was last month for Timcast IRL, the biggest ever been. It's crazy. During the election, we were getting like 100,000 concurrents. Truly crazy. But imagine if we did these live shows where I was like, my neighbor has been throwing mud in my yard. You'd be like, I don't know your neighbor. It has no impact on me or my family. I don't care about the mud. So interpersonal drama is uninteresting to people, A lot of people like it, for sure. And a lot of people live in that drama world. And if that's your thing, more power to you, do your thing. I never wanted to be in that world. I just feel like there's so many, your life is being negatively impacted by deep politics and cultural issues. And I want to talk about those things to try and make the lives of everyone better. But there really is a simple reason for a lot of this. And Elon Musk tweeted, what are your thoughts on the culture war? How could I condense my thoughts on the culture war into a single tweet? So I said, we need more people. More people means more specialties, means better technology. We need space colonization. The left is a chaotic, destructive force with no goals. the right, with its own issues, is more likely to advance us to becoming a spacefaring people. And that's extreme. And we need that. I think Elon Musk understands that. Considering he's building Starship, SpaceX is, one of his biggest, I think his biggest project. And I think that's fantastic. I think we want to be great colonizers. I think the Europeans did tremendous good for the world by colonizing. I think a lot of dark stuff came along with it. We don't ignore those things, but if you want to look back and just judge everyone as evil as with all the things we now find to be wrong or evil versus what back then was considered acceptable, it's like it's a never-ending cycle of hate and violence. No, what we want to do is say, what were the good things? Those are the things we want to persist. So colonization, I believe, was a tremendous force for good on this planet. A tremendous force for good, despite the fact that it came with a lot of bad that today we recognize and say we reject. Space colonization is the next tremendous force for good with, as far as we know right now, limited opportunity for atrocity. In that, sure, Avatar might happen where, the global Earth military goes to some planet where there's a bunch of like tribal level, blue cat people, and then we colonize them or whatever. But it's just like, that's such a human perspective based on human. No, what's probably going to happen is we build pods with like self-sustaining biospheres on certain planets, or we start mining asteroids. Maybe we build massive space stations with, we figure out how to do a biosphere system perfectly. We figure out how to synthesize. So that's what I want to, that's what I want to see for us. The left doesn't do that. The left hates this. The left wants less people. Less people means less technology. Less people means less specialties. That means we just stay. And that's the end of it. And for what purpose? I believe the purpose of humanity is to develop, expand, create, to organize free energy into complex systems. That's why I do what I do, for the most part. So, I can go back and talk about the origins of everything and try and get on track. But this is just me talking about random stuff as it seems. But let's go back in time and I'll tell you, how we come to this place. I was working in, here's the origin story for Timcast. Grew up in Chicago. Everybody listened to hip hop. Started listening to punk rock. Friends got me involved into it. I played drums a little bit. My mom got me a drum set. Played drums. Actually, shortly after this, family opened a cafe. Cafe had live music, acoustic folk. Some famous people came through. Business didn't survive, went under after a couple of years. Sad day for my family because we were like, lower class, I think is the way you put it, like just below middle class. And then, and I don't think it's fair to say middle class, that we lived in the south side of Chicago. But people often try to claim it was middle class, despite the fact that like we lost our house to bankruptcy and stuff like that. And I'm like, but you call it whatever you want. I'm not going to pretend, I don't know. You call it whatever you think it is. So I got into the Offspring, punk rock music. Boy, are they a letdown now. And then with that, skateboarding started becoming more popular. I started rollerblading. Everybody rollerbladed. Started skateboarding. Skateboarding got me introduced to skate punk, which got me introduced to heavier political punk, which got me introduced to more punk scene individuals. But I was never super into the hardcore punk scene. Got me involved in politics. Was on the internet the whole time. Started reading the news, and so I've always been reading about this stuff, being political. So when I get older, I start going to protests. When I get older than that, I try to figure out how I can do something that's going to have a positive impact. One day I meet a guy who's campaigning he's canvassing for Greenpeace, and I ask him is this a job that I could do? Because he was explaining like, we're out here, we get paid, and we're changing the world. And I got hired. And, I worked there, and I worked really hard. And within like a week, I became one of their best fundraisers, signing up new memberships on the street, getting between like 6 and 8 new members per day when the quota was like 1, if that. And then I ended up moving to a different nonprofit, ended up becoming a nation's best fundraiser. And I thought I was doing all this good. Ended up leaving. And for a variety of reasons, a couple of years goes by where I was doing like odd jobs work and stuff like that. Ended up in Los Angeles, did some campaign work for, it was called Environment California. Ended up doing the same fundraising organization, nonprofit, did fundraising for the Human Rights Campaign, did that. And then I decided to quit, got another job. And, the reason for it was what I found with these nonprofits is that I thought I was out there actually, fixing these problems, changing the world. And I wasn't. It was like political power stuff. often you'd be lying and they'd trick you into lying. And that was the craziest thing. They'd give you scripts to read and the scripts would be wrong. They'd give you excuses to justify certain things. And then eventually I was just like, I look into this and I'm like, what? I trusted them. And so I didn't want to do it. So I went to stay with my brother in Virginia. Then Occupy Wall Street happened. And I was playing Fallout 3 and I was just like, awesome game. And I'm like, I don't know. I started making skate videos. I made like some trick tip videos. I've always been a video editor. And decided to go up. And that's it. And then so I started live streaming, and I'll give you the quick version. Live streaming was mainly because I didn't have enough storage on my phone, didn't have anywhere to put the videos I recorded, but I felt they needed to be recorded. It was really cool. The live streams I started doing, within like a week, I had 2,000 concurrent viewers watching me live walk around the park, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But apparently people liked that I was filming and explaining what was going on. And so people would see, and then I'd give them, context about what's happening. When the park got swept up, Time Magazine featured my live stream on their front page, which eventually went viral and then was actually syndicated on a bunch of different TV networks around the world as footage of what was going on after the park had been raided and cleared out. And this resulted in Time Magazine nominating me for the Time 100. It is what it is. I don't know. Some people are going to say that it's a humble brag or something, but they did. And I was featured in Time's Person of the Year, The Protester, as one of 6 features. So that was tremendous. And I was like, what do I do? Everybody in the media industry wanted to hire me as the flavor of the month. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in doing any of that. TV shows like, hey, come on and be a correspondent, do a TV show, do a book. And I'm like, only under these terms. And they were like, we're not giving you that. And I was like, then I don't want to do it. So I spent a year just doing my own thing. And after that, I realized I was broke because you don't make money. I was making like $5 a day. I tried to make YouTube videos, didn't work. You can see the early YouTube videos on my main channel. And they're like, whew, boy, do I look young and thin. How about that? And they'll be there forever. And so I went to Vice because I knew someone there. They said, we'll put in a good word. We'll see what happens. I went to Al Jazeera English because they were launching a new thing. And some journalists I knew said, you'd be a great fit. But Google was also offering grants. And so that was an option as well. I went to all of them, and they all made offers. But I knew Vice was the right choice because Vice was doing Verite and hosted documentary stuff. And I was like, that's the component that I need. And that's a hit. I loved their docs back in 2011, 2012, 2012-ish. And so then wasn't really going anywhere. But this is my understanding of what happened. Google was going to make me a Google subsidiary or something. I don't know. I don't know how it was structured back then. Was going to make me a grant offer of like $200K or something. I don't know if that's true, but this is my understanding. And when I went to Vice, hearing this, went to Google and said, you're going to give that dude money on his own? Give us substantially more money, and we'll turn it into a whole YouTube channel, Vice News. They had already been planning on doing Vice News, but Vice News was supposed to be HBO runoff. Whatever didn't go to HBO, that didn't make it, they'd put on Vice News because they didn't want to waste it. When I came around, they said they had me go to Turkey. They offered me the job while I was in Turkey. And it shattered viewer records for them or something like that. I was live streaming the Gezi Park protests and they were like, okay, we got something. And so when I came back, they were like, you're our first hire for Vice News. We are going to change this and turn it into field reporting. So that was because of me. Not like I was the leader who put all the pieces together, but that's why I say founding member. I didn't create Vice. I didn't create Vice News. I was the first person they hired for it under the specific field reporting thing. And then they brought in this guy, Jason Mojica, to run it. And I guess they went to Google and said, give us money and we'll do that instead. And then Google's like, that's way better because Vice was slaying it on YouTube. And they said there's an opportunity for premium content. Plus this guy, Tim, I'd been consulting Google on live streaming stuff. So it worked out. Worked at Vice for just over a year. And I think I didn't feel like what I was doing was being managed properly, shattering records and stuff like that. And they weren't able to accommodate me the way that I wanted. And I don't blame them for it. Long story of it is I said, I want to be doing more documentaries. I'm not just going to come here to do what I already do. I came to Vice not because I wanted to get a salary. I came because I can live stream. I know the tech. Me and my friend invented some stuff and some methodologies and technology. We were making a mobile app. I need to supplement that with something longer term for in between breaking news spikes. And that's where Vice can help me. You guys don't know how to do the live stuff. I do. I'll bring in a team. I don't know how to do the documentary stuff, but you can help me get to that point, which they did to a certain degree, but not enough. And so when Fusion came along and made me an offer, I took it. And Fusion paid me. I went to Miami, and I was sitting with the CEO and the president. I think it was the president. And they offered me $250,000 a year plus $200,000. No, it was a $100,000 sign-on bonus. I think it was like 100 or something. And then I was just like, I've never seen so much money in my life. You know, gutter crust from Chicago, right? And so I said, this sounds fantastic. They offered me a budget to produce my own thing, to hire my own people, basically doing everything I do. And they said, we want you to do what you did for Vice and do it here. And I said, absolutely, I can. And then this is funny because the CEO, he's like, I said, look, I'll tell you this right now. You sign a check and hand it to me. I say, yes. If I go back to New York, I'm not interested. Like, I just don't care that much about the money. You know what I mean? Like, but here's what he did. They said, I think I went right to their office and he goes, I'm going to round you up so that you net 100. And so he added like 80K to the check. Basically, it was like a 100K check would come out to like 60. But he was like, no. You know, what is it net? Am I getting it wrong? Net. So after taxes, you put 100K in your pocket. And I was like, man, you know, so I took it. And I had a contract for them. They wanted 3 years. I said 2. Within like 6 months, the company decided they were woke. And that was crazy because they had this picture, this graphic on their wall at their office in Miami that said, we will not be partisan. And they wanted to create what they called nice Vice. They wanted to do documentary stuff. They wanted to do what Vice had done, but they didn't want to be gross. They didn't want to be too edgy. They wanted to be young. They wanted to be something new for a younger generation that hit on what Vice was hitting on without doing the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So young people speaking in an authentic way, on the ground reporting. They had a show that they were going to launch that was going to be similar to Vice on HBO. I think it was called like Outpost. I can't remember what it was called. And then within 6 months, I guess what happened was, I could be wrong, 2 things happened. Their social media marketing guy said that the largest driver of traffic for the website is suburban moms. And the best content we've done has been social justice. And so they went, there it is. That's the angle. We found our path to success. It could be because of investors, parent companies. They maybe said, look, we've invested a lot of money in you. We want you to go the route of what's working, not some pipe dream hope you have about being nice Vice. But all of a sudden, they had a video about trans kids that got like 100K views. And then there was just excitement exploded. And it was like, this is it. More of this. And I was like, okay, well, I don't do that, right? You know, we went to Fukushima. I brought Luke with me. It was really cool. And hopefully my thyroid stays in good shape. And so the company went woke. And then within like 8 or 10 months, the stuff that I was doing didn't really make sense for them anymore, despite the fact that consistently my content got more traffic than anything they were producing. But the big hits they got, you know, those were woke stuff. Having one guy who can consistently get 40 to 50K views on videos or 100K on videos is good. And they liked it, but they were like, well, they had a choice. A whole company that believes in a certain ideology that's had a few videos that have cracked 1 million, or the guy who's getting a consistent base of views. They were like, these bigger videos is where we got to go. Yeah, what he's doing is good. We're getting more of those. Those are hitting more often. He's averaging way more, but these were big hits. So I said, I want to quit. I went to the president, and then there's a variety of things that happened. You know, he said, we're here to side with the audience. I said, I'm not here to do that. I'm just here to report. The videos I've done have done well. We've been really great with social media marketing. It's what you guys need and want. Nice Vice. It's exactly what I was asked to do. And they were just like, meh, you know, too bad. And they told me that this is the new generation. They're progressive, and that's the direction we're going to go. And then I said, I want to leave. And the president was like, give us a few months. We'll try and work something out. I think the concern for them was that they did this big news, this big PR thing about the Expendables, they called it, because Fusion had hired a whole bunch of high-profile personalities, like, you know, high-profile. And having me, like, publicly come out and be like, it's not for me. You know, I'm not here to disparage anybody. afterwards, explaining the bad things I saw, well, that's because they did not just say they would respect it. But anyway, they just giving me, I think it was like 40 grand. Like, it's crazy. But this is the way it works, I guess. One day I get a phone call and they're like, check your bank account. Paraphrasing. And it was like gross 40K. So like netted, I don't know. And they called it a bonus. And I'm like, how do I get a bonus when the company is bleeding money? Whatever. A few months later, I still was not interested in doing what they wanted. And they called me up and said, we're letting you go. Your contract is ending and then we're not going to renew it. And I said, whew, thank you. And I was in Miami at the time. And I knew that I couldn't stick around Miami. The place we had was very, very expensive. And so I had to go back to New York. And at the time, my brother had lived with me in Miami and then he left. My other brother lived with me in Miami, and then he was still there with me at the end. When my brother Chris ended up leaving, we got into a fight. And Chris works here now. My brother Ryan was there with me. Adam Krigler and Nishra were there, and they moved. They left. And then I ended up moving back to the New York area. I went to Union City, New Jersey. And then from then, I tried to figure out just what I was going to do. And it was like back to square one. So I started making YouTube videos like once a week or something. Went to DC and did a live stream. It made a little bit of money. And I saved almost everything that I got paid for Infusion, because I think when you grow up and you're living on the south side of Chicago and you're very poor, you don't need money. You learn to live without and you want for less. Some people the opposite, I suppose. But for me, that's what it was. I was like, I never needed that stuff. I didn't have to maintain it. I didn't have it. I didn't care. Sleeping on a couch was sleeping on a couch. I always slept on couches. So when I was working at Fusion, I'm like, I don't know what to do with this money. This is crazy. The paychecks were like $8,000 every 2 weeks is the most I've ever gotten. And then I was just like, put it in the bank, put it in the bank, put it in the bank. So when I left, I had money sitting around. And I used that to basically just start producing YouTube stuff. And I was kind of like, it was kind of scary. It really is. Because I'm like, that thought is in my mind. It was before Vice and it was after Fusion. I had the same thoughts. Before Vice, I'm sitting here thinking like, the media called me this new thing. They told everybody about how I was the rising star in journalism with this new methodology, with live streaming, with mobile. And I'm not going to live up to those expectations. I'm just some dude who complained while walking around with a camera. And it was just like right place, right time. Like I had a cell phone. Apps existed. I'm a young person. I know the social media apps existed. I just did what was in front of me. And then they sort of put all this stuff about me out there. And then I get scary because I'm like, if this is the end, I have no money left. I can't pay rent. I can't live in New York. What do I do? Do I move back to Chicago and sleep on couches again? That'll be one heck of a story, I guess. That's the worst possible thing in the world, in my opinion. You're like, they claimed you were so big and you were nothing. And that scared me. And I was just like, so what do you do? How do you ever recover from being the Occupy guy? I got lucky. Some companies said, we'll hire you. And I thought, even if I end up as a social media manager for Al Jazeera English, it's like the career trajectory is happening. But Vice did do some good stuff for me. I did host some docs for Vice. The Kim.com one we did was one of their biggest. It got I think it's maybe I don't know how many views it has, 10 million or something, or it got like 5 million overnight. And I was not the most charismatic on-camera host, nor did I know what I was doing, but they knew that I was tech savvy and that I knew a lot about Kim. And so they were like, we're going to have you do it. See if you can make something. And what was originally going to be a sit-down interview turned into this hosted tour of his property, which ended up becoming successful, as much as people were like, this guy's lame to me. It worked out for me and it really, really helped me. And then I started feeling like, I think I'm going to make it, After Fusion, it was the same thing. Only this time I had money. I had money from what they paid. They paid really well. And it was sitting in the bank and I thought to myself, the amount of money I have, I won't have to work for 5 years. And so it's really just now about making sure that I get to the grind and start working hard again. Because if you work hard, you can make it. And then it was 6 months on, I got lucky. And it's partial luck. It's not so much luck. It's not so much luck, but luck is there. Chance favors the prepared. I saw the news story about Trump saying last night in Sweden. I saw conservatives were tweeting about it. And then I said, I'll go. I set up a GoFundMe, I think it was. And I said, or WePay or something, I don't remember. And I was like, fund me, I'll go to Sweden and I'll do daily vlogs about it. And so I immediately started getting attacked by my friends. This is the first lesson I learned in the evil of man, I guess. People I had worked with, people who were my friends, started DMing me saying, don't do this. And I was like, why? And they were like, don't support Trump. And I was like, support Trump? It's like, what do you mean? He's wrong. Sweden is not the way he described it. And they were like, it doesn't matter. Donate all the money they gave you to charities. And I was like, that's illegal. It's fraud. I can't do that. Like if I say, hey, give me money, I'll do X, and then I give the money away. And I was like, what? It was like the first real slap in the face experience, man. I got to tell you. And I was like, I'm DMing these people from Vice that were my friends that I had worked with. And I was like, this is what I do. This is what I did for Vice. I went to Ukraine. I filmed that stuff. I went to Brazil. I went to Turkey. I'm going to go to Sweden. I don't understand. And that was it for so many of these people. They immediately started attacking me, calling me far right, like that. And I'm like, we used to get drinks together. You know that I'm like, my politics were very, I was Bernie politics, you know? But you got to understand, Bernie back then was closed borders, pro-union, some things I didn't agree with, but he was very much working class, you know, bring the factories, bring the jobs back. And that was crazy. But it was Paul Joseph Watson who had done this challenge. I'll pay the room and board for anybody who actually, any journalist who wants to go. And I was like, I'm game. And it's funny because it's like, well, you know, like they knew that I wasn't actually going to show some establishment line. So it's like, you know, I assume the attitude was like, I mean, any corporate journalist who's going to go into these neighborhoods. But, you know, Paul, a man of his word, he said, you know, I said I was going to do it. So he did. He contributed, I think, $2,000 out of the 11,000 we raised. I could be getting the numbers wrong. I went to Sweden and we did a daily vlog. It was so much fun. Meeting people. The press was there waiting for me. It was so weird. I'm like, this is crazy. Just walking around Sweden. It wasn't as bad as everybody thought it was. But crime has gone up for a variety of reasons. And it's not so much the Afghan refugees, but they were causing issues because they have a practice, the youth have a practice of where they rape each other. And so that was something that started happening in Sweden. But the crime was due to largely the children of refugees from the 90s who weren't properly integrated by the government. Long story short. And so, it was funny because Huffington Post, Slate, a bunch of these leftist publications all of a sudden stopped insulting me and actually started praising me, saying, you know, Tim Pool goes to Sweden, finds a whole lot of nothing about what the right was claiming and all that stuff. And then I met up with a guy named Shang Frink. Frink? Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, buddy. And all of us, we went to I think Rinkeby, was it Rinkeby? I think it was Rinkeby. And we got threatened and people were yelling at us and we were advised by the police to leave and the police escorted us to our car, later claiming they didn't, but I filmed it. And they said, oh no, we just happen to have been going that direction. Maybe, fine. But maybe it was a language barrier thing. I said, they were like, you need to leave now. If they call friends, start throwing stones, we can't stop them. And then I was like, okay, we weren't filming them. Like they tried claiming that I went there and filmed people without their permission. It's so insane. We had cameras though, and the cameras were being held down at our side. And I had the GoPro on a gimbal. So when the police started escorting me, I started filming myself saying, this is what's happening right now. The police drove slowly behind us. It's all on camera. We got to our car and we left. And then the media turned on me. It was funny. I was scheduled to speak in some talk show at night. And I think they wanted to cancel it because they're like, oh no. At first the narrative was Sweden's beautiful. Next thing the narrative was, oh no, we got escorted out of a dangerous neighborhood they all knew was dangerous. But I still said the same thing on their show. I said, it's exaggerated. Everything they're saying about the crime is just way over the top. You know, look, I think the issue is in America, we have crime that's so bad that when we hear crime gets worse in Sweden, we view it from our perspective. We view it from, if we have 800 murders in Chicago, then we hear Sweden had an increase of murders in 1,000%. We view that from the perspective of Chicago with crime and murder all over the place. When in reality, it was like from 1 to 10 murders. Bad, of course. And a big increase that freaked out many people in Sweden. But when I got there, I was like, I respect that you're upset. I respect the crime did increase. I think the people in the United States don't understand. It's not as bad as they think. And they had me on the show or whatever. But this was a big success for me, obviously. I came back and all of a sudden I had like 40,000 subs. The views quickly dried up because I wasn't doing the on-the-ground stuff anymore. After Sweden, I went to the UK and I walked around filming just general vlog stuff. A lot of just me talking, not too dissimilar to this. And the views started going down, and I was like, how do you maintain a vlog? The idea was like, can I do from this a daily vlog? Because that was huge at the time. Like Casey Neistat was like really changing the game. Can I do a daily vlog that is a news angle where I'm exploring these things? So we went to France and went to France and did this whole, migrant story, and that did well. I was getting a decent amount of views. And went to a few other countries. Luke Rutkowski was there. Lawrence Southern was there. There's a few other people. We would see each other all the time. We didn't like coordinate with each other to be in the same stories. It was like, these are the stories you go and cover. So, when I came back to the US, there were news stories that weren't on the ground that were becoming prominent, political. And so I put my GoPro off the gimbal and I put it on top of my monitor and just would be like, okay, if I can't do a vlog, I'll do a 10-minute quick thing and then upload it. And the performance on those was exponentially better than walking around trying to film random things. And I didn't want to do that though. But as time went on, I started doing it more and more. And then I noticed that other people had multiple channels. And I said, all I do is every day I wake up and I read the news and then I talk for 10 minutes and then I'm done. And here's the crazy thing. Around this point is when I started making money. I was making, I think, like $50K a year on average. I had a Patreon. So, you guys who supported me back then, sincere thank you so much. And I was sitting there thinking like that fear that after I leave these companies, I couldn't make it was gone. I was like, that's it. If this is all I ever do, I can pay my rent. I can buy food. And I think I'm on the right path. Things are moving up. I remember looking at my Google Analytics and seeing that like my YouTube video was getting $50 per day. And it was like today's payout $45, today's payout $63. I was like, holy, this is amazing. It's like $60 in one day. And I'm like, I'm reading the news and I'm talking about this stuff. So I launched a new channel, this one. You can go look at the earliest video. It's like I'm playing Hearthstone. And I was like, I do other stuff. I play Hearthstone in the mornings. Why don't I just stream it and do something that's not political? And then typically what would happen is I would try and make a video, a segment, and it was heavily edited. And it was so hard to do. It took like 2 hours to make a 10-minute video, like no joke. And then I would talk for 15 because I would like edit and cut it down to like 10. And if it wasn't 10, I'd like, man, what do I do? And it was hard. It was really hard. But, I figured it out. So what happens is throughout the day as I'm researching the news, I would always find other stories that were really interesting, but just never made it to the level of like the top story. Donald Trump does backflip. Okay, that's the big news. Then there's, gamer banned for saying naughty word. And I'm like, well, that's a story I'd like to talk about. Now, you know what I'll do? I'll just start recording whatever and throwing on my second channel because whatever. And it was crazy. Within a couple of weeks, I was getting 50,000 views on these videos. And I was like, what? This is nuts. Profound moment, man. I was, man, it's crazy. I remember one day looking at the money that was coming in, and it was like $8,000 in the month. And I was just like, holy crap. I don't need these companies. $8,000. I'm like, I'm going to make $100,000 this year. And I'm just doing these YouTube videos, man. We tried doing some other things. We launched a podcast called the Culture War Podcast. We did like 13 episodes. Wow. It's kind of crazy to think back then. Once a week. And we were getting like 10K downloads, I think. And I think it was the name. The Culture War Podcast. People were just clicking it. And stopped doing it. We were booking guests. And I think we had Coleman Hughes on. Coleman, shout out. Awesome dude. We had a few guests. And ultimately, I could not do it. It was so hard to do a morning show and a night show. It was just so hard. Even though it was once a week, I was just like, man. And so, all of a sudden, I think I had like 180,000 subs on youtube.com/Timcast. I had like 100,000 on this channel. And I decided to move to buy a house. Like I was making six figures. So 100K, I was like, I got to be smart about this. And so I saved up. I was really excited. And I saved up a down payment on a house. I had dipped into a lot of my savings to get to that point, mind you, from Fusion. And so I got a house in Deptford, in South Jersey, right on the other side of Philadelphia. It was $300,000. It was awesome, and brought my brother and a friend with me. And it was mostly just, me doing my thing as per usual. And that was it. Like with those two channels, and this is the crazy thing, 187,000 subs, I think it was, and like 100,000 subs on the Timcast channel. I was making $300,000, $400,000 a year. Crazy, man. And that was it. I was done. I was like, I am complete. It's crazy. I'm making more money than I'm making at Fusion. I have no bosses. I had a projector on the wall to my left playing the news 24/7. I used to have CNN on. And I was just like, I can't believe it. I almost couldn't believe it. But I guess when you work nonstop all day, every day, eventually just something happens. And I that was it. I think back to that point often because that was the point where most people would advise you to stop. And for good reason. You have a show. A successful show. Not the biggest show in the world. Actually, kind of small. 180K subs. But you are making low, mid six figures. Take the money. Shut up. You've done it. Of course, that's not me. And I said, I want to fix these things that bother me. I want to see a brighter and better future. I want to call out the lies. Especially what I experienced working in the machine and what I experienced being subjected to with the Sweden stuff. I just said, I'm not gonna back down. One day, Joe Rogan has on Jack Dorsey, and he did a bad job. Dislike ratio is massive on YouTube, like 90-something%. So I made a video talking about it and explaining everything that was going on with Twitter and what Joe got wrong. About 4 or 5 years before that, Joe Rogan booked me to come on his show, right after Occupy Wall Street. And I flew out, and he can't, or I flew out, and then he canceled me at the last minute. And I said, he owes me no favors. I have to find my own way. I can't rely on other people, but it would have been awesome to go on the Joe Rogan Experience. This is back in 2011. A year later, someone tweeted, you really got to have Tim Pool on. And he said, yeah, I was gonna, but it didn't work out. Tim, what do you say? Come on the show. We DM'd. He said, yes, this date, this time. I said, I'm coming. Bought my plane ticket, hopped on a plane. Right when I landed, opened my phone. Sorry, bro, got to cancel. And I went, I guess he didn't understand, I don't blame him. He didn't understand that I was like this broke, like low income dude who was just pushing through. And I was like, hey man, going on Rogan would be so big. Something that would really help me. And I got pissed. And then he unfollowed me because I was like, bro, are you kidding me? It's 2 times now. I've flown out here. And he was just like, didn't respond. I don't blame him. He doesn't owe me anything. Joe Rogan does the Jack Dorsey episode. I think I had about 180,000 subscribers. I had about, on Tim, as I mentioned, Tim Pool channel, 100,000 on Timcast. I made a video on the Timcast channel. I was doing 5 per day. I would do 2 20 minutes and 3 10 minutes. And I talked about it. Uh-oh. I showed a still from YouTube and it got auto flagged for copyright. And I'm like, bro, that's a couple $100 out of my pocket. Well, at this point, Joe had followed me back. He had apologized to me a while ago. He had said like, yeah, I'm really sorry about what happened, man. I didn't mean anything by it. And I feel bad about how it went down. I didn't realize, because for him, he's like a busy guy. He's doing his thing. He's got all these guests that are coming on. And for me, I'm like, I'm not a part of his world. So, maybe if he had actually paid for the tickets and I had waited for that confirmation, it would have been better because then he could have been like, for me, I was like, I jumped the gun. I was like, no. So I DM'd him. I said, hey, you copyright claimed my video. Kind of need that money. And he hits me back and says, it was automatic. Sorry about that. Let me get it fixed for you. Then he hits me back 10 minutes later, like, can I call you? And I was like, what the? Joe Rogan wants to call me? And yeah. And we talked about Jack Dorsey and Twitter and the censorship. And I explained to him everything I said. I was like, it's not a made up thing. It's not conservative letter lying. It's actual bias. And the evidence is in Gizmodo, who wrote the story. That's on Facebook. They had been censoring conservative news stories. So it's plain as day that we're seeing it. And the other thing, too, is a lot of these culture warriors like Sargon, they're not far right like they're claiming. These guys are like classical liberal, center left in politics. So Joe says, finally after we talked for a little bit, he was like, yeah, it's like, I didn't realize, that it was so hot. I just thought I was having this guy on. And he's like, look, man, I really am sorry about what happened with you not coming on the show and all that. And I was like, look, Joe, he's like, you've never owed me a thing. And of course I was upset because I spent money. But I always view it this way, like, I can't get mad at you for not doing me a favor when you owed me nothing. And he was like, but we'll have you on someday, man. We'll get you on soon. I'll figure out the schedule. And I was like, look, I will never ask. You hit me up anytime you want me on the show, and it would be obviously really, really good for me. You know that. But it's your thing. And he was like, right on, man. It was good talking to you. And I was like, thanks for getting the strike removed. And then I'm in my boxers eating a burrito. No, not really boxers. Well, I was in like gym shorts. I was playing World of Warcraft. What was out back then? Was it, what was out back then? Oof. Warlords of Draenor, maybe? I don't know. I don't think it was Legion. It might have been Legion. And my phone rings and it's Joe calling me back. And I'm like, oh, snap. And I answer. And he's like, do you want to come on the show this week? I can't remember what day it was. I think it was Friday. He wanted me to come on the show or something. And I was like, I look at my phone or the calendar and I'm like, I'd have to leave tomorrow, like first thing, to be able to do this. And that means I'd have to record segments right now and do a double and leave first thing in the morning. And he's like, yeah, we'd have to fly out tomorrow to come on the show. And I was like, let's do it. Let's do it. Joe, you're the man. Seriously. To all the people who helped me out. Joe absolutely did help me out. But I give Sargon more credit. I genuinely mean it. Like, it's obvious that going on Joe's show is huge. I gained massive amount of subscribers. But if it wasn't for Carl in the first place offering me that collaboration, I probably wouldn't have even got on the radar of Joe for him to even have hit me up about what had happened earlier. Because it put me like over 100K. All of a sudden, I was supporting myself. I was making money. And that was it, right? After Carl helped me out, all of a sudden, I was like at the point where I was about to break even. That was the big boost. Otherwise, it was once again like, will this turn into I'm just burning my savings and I have to go work somewhere else? So I go on Joe's show. Maybe you've seen it. I was so excited. After the show, it got like millions of views. It did really, really well. And I was like, I looked at comparable famous people he had on the show that didn't do as well. And I was like, man, I don't view myself. I'm just a guy. I always say, like, I'm just a guy who's talking to the camera and complaining about stuff on the internet. You know what I mean? Joe Rogan, man, this is what happens. I think this was his plan the whole time. After we finish the show out, he's like, thanks for coming, buddy. And I was like, that was so cool. And I was getting hit up and it felt really good. I was gaining tons of subscribers and I was like, wow, Joe Rogan, man. And then I get back to the hotel room and it's like an hour later and he calls me up and he was like, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on. That actually was a really great show. And I was like, dude, seriously, man, thank you so much. And he was like, hey, don't tell anybody what I'm about to ask you. Don't repeat it. But if I could get it set up, would you want to come on the show with Jack Dorsey? He wants to, I think they're going to bring on one of his top lawyers. And I was like, what? I was like, bro. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm the guy for this. He's like, dude, you're a smart guy. You seem to know a lot about this. Like, I think you do well. And I was like, look, I'll do it. But you're kicking the baby bird out of the nest, man. If you want me to stand up to like a tech CEO billionaire and talk about this stuff, like, I would be honored. And he was like, I'll let you know, say nothing. And if I can confirm it, then I'll schedule it. And it was like a month. I think a month from that, maybe 3 weeks. And I'm just sitting there like every day, like, wow, if I got to sit down with Jack Dorsey and call him out, I don't think Jack's a bad guy in certain respects, but I have slammed him very, very hard for a lot of reasons. I'm lightening up simply because Elon and has talked with him, and I'm willing to trust that Jack was just unable to do certain things, but I don't trust him completely. But so then he hits me up. It's on. And I'm just like, heart sinks, and I'm like, this is going to be crazy. Like, how am I going to do this? I didn't research at all. Like, I should say I didn't study at all. I didn't like read up on anything. I just I'm going to go in, and if I can say it, I can say it. And then I went in and I said what I said. And there were certain things I took issue with, namely like the misgendering policy. I said caters to only one particular worldview, and it's an inversion of the conservative worldview. And that's not me making an argument on behalf of conservatives. It's me making a fact statement, a logical statement on the rules. Conservatives say X, liberals say Y, you ban X. That's a bias. And they were like, no, it's not. Did the show. And then that was really big. And then that really helped. I remember like shortly after that, Crowder had me on. Shout out to Crowder. That also was a big boost for us. And around this time, so let me think in terms of time frame. What ends up happening is I try launching a brand because I didn't want to be the figure. I wanted to make something with more people. I wanted something that was like Vice, that could exist on its own, that didn't have to have me reliant on bringing in money. I wanted to create a company that eventually I could pass down to an honorable individual, I'm an old man and it's up to you kind of thing. And that can't be Timcast. That's my name. That was just my Twitter handle. And, I while I was out doing this venture, which I'll just stress for legal reasons, I'm not allowed to talk about, but there are some developments, so we'll see what happens. And some of it's public, you can read about. And, while I'm out there, I started a new channel called Timcast IRL. Maybe you watch the show. Timcast IRL was supposed to be me vlogging again. I was like, let's get back to vlogging. And here was the idea. I can do my show, my Tim Pool Daily Show podcast, and drive around in a van. And then on IRL, I can film the daily goings on because vlogs were very popular. And I was like, I want to make other stuff. I play music. I skateboard. I have friends who do this stuff. There's an opportunity there. I was vlogging before. And, but what I want to do is I want to go places, pull up in the van, the mobile studio, bring out a table, sit down and Timcast IRL podcast. Sitting at a table, people can come up to me, not too dissimilar from what Crowder was doing with Change My Mind. Very similar, probably, in fact. I don't remember when, if I think he was doing real conversations and that turned into Change My Mind. And I was like, it would be a hybrid of that. But I wouldn't be trying to change anyone's mind. I would just be having conversation. So it wouldn't be so much that I would assert a position like Crowder would. And, the lockdowns happened. COVID happened. And I said, there's no way I can do this. So I need to turn it into something different. And this is where Adam comes in, who was a really good friend. We used to play Magic the Gathering together all the time. We'd have game night. Magic, so much fun. Met him when I worked for Vice. One day, because this is how Vice is, you got nothing to do. And I end up saying like, all right, look, we're not scheduled to do anything until for like a week. I'm hanging out. People are leaving. I'm going to go hang out at this store. It's called 20-Sided Store. And I went. It was early in the day. And Adam was there with a longboard. And I had a deck with me. I was like, hey, but you want to play? And he's like, I didn't bring a deck with me. And I was like, all right, whatever. Just bored, want to play some Magic the Gathering. And then he was like, me and my buddies do a game night. You should come hang out. And I was like, dude, that would be epic because I don't have anybody to play cards with. And they also, I think they played poker. I don't know if I ever played poker with them. But it was a big poker table. And it was so much fun. And we would hang out all the time. And I ended up, this is during Vice, ended up getting, and then Fusion, getting an apartment right next to Adam because I needed a place when I was working at Vice. And he was like, get this place. And that apartment actually screwed me over. This is hilarious. They rented out my apartment, and they didn't give me my deposit back. And they moved people in. But I was traveling for Vice, and so I just was like, I showed up one day, because I had gotten another apartment. And then I showed up one day, and the doors were locked. And I laughed. I still had a key to the front door, but the apartment door. So anyway, here's what happens, right? Adam had lived with me in Miami. We wanted to do a show. It didn't really work out. I had brought Adam into Fusion. I wanted them to hire him as like a skate kind of personality, youthful exuberance kind of thing. I don't know what happened with that. It didn't really go anywhere. But, Adam was killing it with like modeling stuff. And he was taken care of. So he didn't need anything from me. But then when I was like, I need to do something that's different. I need to do something that's I already have a political show. We need something else. You know, it's funny. That's always been what we've done. Hence, pop culture crisis. My view was it would always be better, bigger, a pop culture show. I genuinely believe this right now as well. Pop culture crisis, which we launched almost a year ago. Has it been a year, actually? How long? As long as pop culture crisis been up? Might be longer than that. I can't remember. No, I think it's been a year. Talking about pop culture is infinitely more marketable than talking about politics. Now, we have the advantage of politics being pop culture and me having built this thing up over 10 years to the point where it's at now. And so I think pop culture crisis has the potential to become substantially bigger than Timcast IRL ever will be, because news about, you know, like I got a story pulled up in front of me, Kanye West, that's on timcast.com. Cassandra, bravo with the scoop. News about celebrities is just the average person likes celebrity gossip. It's just a fact. And it's cultural issues. You'll notice that cultural channels, they do way better than we do. They get way more views. Like you take a look at the quartering, for instance, versus Timcast IRL. Jeremy gets I think he gets like 5 million more per month than we do. Shout out Jeremy. Cool dude. Good. He's a good guy. And he addresses more culture war issues and stuff. And that is, it's popular culture. So he gets a lot of views addressing the overlap. We go politics because that's always been my thing. But we do cultural politics. But so I told the pop culture crisis guys like Brett and Mary, and I was like, you guys do pop culture. And it overlaps with cultural stuff too, because you guys will be way bigger than we ever will be. You know, somebody wants to hear about the retirement of Nancy Pelosi versus Kanye West gets into a rap battle with, you know, insert celebrity or something. Like, people are going to be like, yo, I love that song. So here's what happens with Timcast IRL. The goal of the show early on, if you take a look at it, and I'm sure there's a lot of things I forgot. There's a lot of my interpretation of things, of course. The first few things we did were like UFO sightings, Bigfoot, skinwalkers and stuff. And I was like, I want to do something that's very different from what I already do. And so the show should not be political. We should periodically have like guests come on, but it's mostly going to be like, you know, I'll put it this way. I never wanted to make the Joe Rogan experience. That is just, people just claim that, I guess. I don't want to do what Joe Rogan does. Timcast IRL does not do what Joe Rogan does. And we never wanted it to. But what I really love is weird and wild stories. What I really love is talking about paranormal reality or paranormal activity, alternate reality stuff. Alex Jones is so fun to listen to in that regard. And so I was like, we should talk about like cool, creepy stuff, IRL. Like, it was originally supposed to be this vlog, but we'll just use the channel, had 70,000 subscribers. And then I'll just start streaming on it and we'll talk about, you know, whatever. And then 2 things happened. The pandemic. So it was really hard there was no news. Politics was pop culture. And it's like, and my existing audience was very interested in addressing the news of the day. So the show started to turn into something that it wasn't supposed to be. The goal was to have guests early on, but it was to talk about, it was like the idea would be to find stories. Here's how it breaks down. I did 1 segment on Timcast, youtube.com/Timcast. I did 5 on youtube.com/Timcast News. I thought to myself, I upload at 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m. on the Tim Pool channel, and then 6, 6:15, and 6:30. How do I get a video to drop every hour of the day? Okay, maybe not like midnight to 8 a.m., but every hour of the day. How do I produce more segments? Need something else. I can't talk about the same stories. They've been talked about. I've really reached the cap with talking about everything. But there are these other stories, very similar to how I launched Timcast News, that I don't talk about. Skinwalker Ranch, cool stories. UFO sightings. Doesn't really, you know, they don't really do that well on the Timcast News channel, but I wanted to talk about them. Why don't I stop doing that and make a new show that's just different for different people? Then what we'll do is it'll be segmented. We'll talk about something for like 10 minutes, clip it, and that will be how I get more segments up every day. Instead of me doing research, because my 4 p.m. segment was like, it took 2 hours to make. The other segments were like free form conversation. And the 4 p.m. was, I would literally just, or the Timcast News was literally just talk. 4 p.m. was talk, stop, screen grab, talk, edit, condense. And that was so stressful and hard to do. With Timcast IRL, I could add, 4 more segments, 3 more segments. We would pull 3 stories. It would be a UFO sighting. It would be, we had a guy come on, talk about relationships. Those were in the news. It was topical. I wanted topical stuff that wasn't politics, that I thought was interesting, that I didn't have the energy to do more monologuing on. So I needed help. And I hit up a few people. And then ultimately I was like, I tried doing something with Adam. He's the guy for this. And I hit him up and I was like, would you want to do a show? And here's the pitch. Here's the breakdown. Here's what I need you to do. Basically, I do my morning show. And then you only do the night show with me. But, I'll pay you a base rate plus a percentage of what the channel does. Because the joke I always make, and anybody who knows me knows this, is I'm a communist. And I think that people should get paid a proportion of the product they create within reason. And so the structure that I do with everybody is you will be compensated based on the money generated by your projects, period. I don't believe in doing a business model and where, I'll pay you, X amount of dollars. And then when your book comes out and makes $1 million, congratulations, you've been paid already. Nah, F that. There's no way. And I'll tell you why. They'll just quit and you lose everything. And so I'm more like, we'll cover our costs. We'll take a tiny single digit premium, but we're going to give you everything. If you write a book, you make yourself $1 million, bro, I don't want your money. I want your books to keep getting written. I want us to have a means to push back. There are problems with that mentality because some people quit anyway. But I don't believe in this. I've been advised by other CEOs and businesses. They say never pay your staff enough that they can quit. And I'm like, no, that's dumb. If they want to quit, they should quit. I don't want them here. And so that's my motto. If you don't want to be here, you shouldn't be. If I pay you a bunch of money and then you decide you're going to leave because you saved up enough and now you got to be here, I'm like, I wish you all the best, man. Congratulations. If you want to be here and the money isn't what matters to you, you'll save your money and you'll do the mission and things will work out. And so at Timcast IRL, we encountered a very serious problem early on. One being the COVID pandemic, and 2 being pop culture became politics. So the show started shifting into this realm in a way that I didn't want it to. And I asked Adam, early on, what I need you to do is when I'm doing the morning show and researching all this news, try and find stories that fit this vein of things that I'm not talking about. UFOs, for instance, or DMT trials, or, dating scene and culture stuff. And what ended up happening was, for whatever reason, I don't know, Adam didn't want to do it. And I think he liked what the show was becoming. We had the soundboard. I have the Stream Deck in front of me. You press the button, and Greta Thunberg would be like, "How dare you? How dare you?" And you could press a button, and Trump would go wrong. So when either of us would disagree, we'd hit our buttons, wrong, and then we'd counterpoint. It was fun. I firmly believe that if we stayed on that trajectory, it would have been the biggest podcast. I did not want to be the biggest podcast. I didn't want to do a show like that. It was turning into that. But you know what? I was fine with it. I had a conversation early on with Adam of the main problem. And this is just the cold, hard truth. I had promised Adam a percentage of revenue for the channel. But because we were not producing segments that were substantively different from my existing channels, which were getting 500,000 views at this point, immediately at the launch of this show, the viewership on Timcast and Timcast News started to precipitously decline. Because I would put out a segment like Trump does backflip, and then at 6 p.m., I'd say, "You ready for the show? Do you have any stories?" And Adam would say, "No." And I would say, "What do we talk about?" And he goes, "Just talk about whatever you talked about earlier." And I was like, "Bro, I can't do that. I can't double up my segments and just split my views." The people who watched, this is the problem we still have with Timcast today. This is a fact. Often, because this is what it turned into, the 4 p.m. segment, I try very hard to avoid this, will be the biggest news of the day. But so does Timcast IRL, has to be the same thing. So what's happened? The Tim Pool Show's views, way down. The Tim Pool Daily Show podcast, way down. I went to Adam within a month of doing the show, and I said, "Bro, this show's not going to last." I do a morning show. I've worked really, really hard to get to this point. I do everything to make it happen. I want you to get a percentage of the revenue from Timcast IRL. But when we put up two of the same segments, this morning I put up, Story X occurs, and then we do Timcast IRL and put up another segment, Story X occurs. Instead of me getting 300,000 views, I'm getting 150. And then the segment at night gets 150. And then the revenue is divided, and then you want a portion of that. But that's not what I'm trying to do. And I have a mission. I want to make a brand. I want to challenge the Disneys. I want to push back. And I can't do that if I'm sinking myself by launching a product with a pay structure that is siphoning away from what I've already created. I couldn't do it. And that's the truth. And I said, though, this is the structure that we've made, and I'll honor it. And I need you to understand that. I need you to find separate stories. If we make a show that's bigger than my other channels, that's fine. But if we're just already, if it is me relying on my research to talk about the same thing I already talked about with your co-hosting and commentary, that is just a net negative on my business. At this point, I was making about $60,000, $70,000 per month on my two channels, Timcast News and Tim Pool. And I was very excited. I was beginning to look to purchase a building to expand. And we, of course, wanted to launch Subverse, which was a separate company. And then all of a sudden, I saw that my podcast was losing views because Timcast IRL was starting to gain all the views. And I said, this will be the end of what I've been building over the past 10 years. Unless we stay on focus, we can talk about news and politics, but bro, I need you to source segments that I don't do. And if people prefer to watch the stories that you chose over my stories, it's totally fine. But if it's just going to be me doing all the work, coming onto the show, and then giving you half my money, like, bro, we have a problem with that. And so that wasn't the reason why Adam ultimately left the show. He wasn't fired. He wasn't, and he was never fired, in fact. What ended up happening was there were a few instances of, I don't know how to describe it, internal company conflict. We had a couple other people. It was like three employees at this point, really small. And, I had to say things like, hey, like, we can't have this. Like, hey, you can't do this. And so ultimately what ended up happening with the early iteration of the show is that it got to a point where, the reality of the money thing is totally true. I absolutely felt like I had worked so hard sleeping on floors and, working 16-hour days to just enter into a deal that saw me lose half the money when the deal was supposed to be that, Adam would do pre-production for IRL so we could talk about UFOs and dating drama and pop culture. And it was turning into me talking about what I already talked about, but I now had to give him a portion of the revenue. And so I agreed to it. And I said, I'll have to figure this one out, but, you make the deals, you stick with them. It got to a point where Adam was paid so much that we were legally blocked from actually offering him more money. At this point, we started making six figures per month. And my accountant informed me that, like, hey, you're paying this guy too much. He made substantially more than I did. And he was like, you're paying this guy too much. There's a limit on what we can do through payroll because of I don't know exactly what they said. But they were like, you're going to have to figure out an alternative structure. And I was like, okay. I was like, man, this is getting crazy. And but the money was never the issue. And I want to be totally upfront and clear about that. The fact that he was getting paid so much and he was getting paid more than me wasn't an issue. It was like I described it as like it's like a personal issue to me, but like it's I genuinely was like, we're gonna have the biggest podcast in the world, so my boy, man, it's gonna work. You know what I mean? Like, I still own the company, I still have the control of everything, and it may not be what I wanted, and it may be turning into something else, and I think there's a risk to the Tim Pool Daily Show, but I think this is going to be something big. And I think maybe that's the way it was supposed to be. Until the final straw happened. And that is, it's just a broken, sad reality. I know that Adam did a thing talking about me. I hope you guys, check out his stuff. And if you like him, you watch him. He deserves it. He's a cool dude. It's unfortunate that these kind of things happen in business. He told his version of the story. I've only seen some clips of it. I've had people hitting me up. I think it was a particularly inappropriate time considering the amount of threats that we've been getting. Dragging my girlfriend into it with stories that aren't true is just so brutal. Just so brutal. My family being dragged into it, just so brutal. My brother never sued me. He was mad about name rights. He never sued me. So here's what happened. I apologize to Lydia for having this become like a public thing, I guess. We were doing the last episode with Adam, and when the show ended, he yelled at Lydia. Like, look, I know everyone's got their version of events, but it was bad. I had to say, dude, chill, stop. People are saying Tim simped for Lydia. He chose hoes over bros. No, that's not what happened. What happened was I had two friends, and they were fighting with each other. One friend didn't understand, I guess, that there's only so much you can do in terms of allowing instigated aggressive behavior legally. It's not the first time I tried warning him to chill out. He's like, bro, come on. He had sniped at Lydia. I know they don't get along. I know why. I understand. And I'm sorry that he felt that way. I wish that wasn't the case. But you can't yell at someone to the point where they're breaking down in tears and just keep going. And then have me, it only stopped when I was like, bro, stop, chill. And then he stormed off. I understand why he was mad. I sympathize. It's a sad story, man. But you can't take it out on a coworker. I want to ask you guys, what do you think would happen if you worked at your company and you started yelling at a coworker to the point where they broke down in tears and it was not the first time you had an altercation? What do you think's going to happen? I'll tell you what happened. The next day, I thought letting Adam sleep on it would be the appropriate thing to do. Let everybody chill out. I messaged him on Facebook and I said, hey man, you can't yell at coworkers like that. And then he said, I don't want to misquote him, but to paraphrase was basically like, I'm allowed to speak what I want to speak and express myself. I don't respect her. I don't think she's good at her job. She says things that I think are inappropriate, and I'm going to call her out for it. And the gist of the conversation was me saying, I get it, bro, but you can't yell at people like to the point where they're in tears. And then he said something like, if you don't like what I have to say when I say it, then I don't need to be here and I will leave. And I said, and if that's what you want to do, then so be it, leave. And he said, okay, fine. He got in his car and he left. And then I said, okay, I guess I'm going to take full mantle, which I kind of felt like I was doing mostly anyway. I'm just going to do everything. There was a big reason why I told him to chill out. And there's the stupid, unfortunate reason, which I hate, and the personal. The stupid, unfortunate reason is like, if I as an employer have an employee, and I had 3 or 4, scream at another employee to the point of tears, that employee has a legal grounds to take action against me unless I address it. Anybody who works for a company knows it. Adam was not fired. He said, if I don't like what he's going to say when he screamed at an employee, then he'd leave. And I said, if that's what you think, then so be it. He came back later that day and said, so what are we going to do? And I was like, what do you mean, what are we going to do? And he was like, what's it going to be? Like fire Lydia or me? And I was like, bro, you already told me you would leave. And you did. And I've been sitting here all day. Like, what am I supposed to do? You think now, after you put that over my head, you're going to walk back and I'm going to I'm all of a sudden just going to be like, it's all you, bro. Feel free to threaten the destruction of the show unless you fire the employee you don't like. Talk about an impossible situation. So here's what I said. Bro, we can't do this. Like, I can't. There were already the issues with we weren't the show it was supposed to be. There were already issues with I felt like you weren't doing the production I need you to do. We've already had altercations with you and Lydia to the point where like I have to take action. Not just as an employer, but as friends with two people. You didn't want to stop yelling at someone. What am I supposed to do? You know? Who am I supposed to be loyal to? So you know what I did? Man, I'm such a stupid person. I built Adam, I bought him whatever he wanted for his own studio. I gave him the studio in the basement, shouted him out every which way, and he was never fired. I kept paying him. And it's stupid because it opened me up to so much risk. Because I did not want him to leave the show in this way. I did want the lightning in the bottle, as they described it. I did dream about how big the show was going to be. And I thought maybe we will be something that can reach as people. It was crazy to see normies who are like all of a sudden cheering on this dude wearing a maca hat. But you know what I can't do? I can't be in between two people where one guy is screaming at the other person and then tells me, too bad, it's me or her and I won't stop. And I say, bro, if that's what you bring to me, I have no choice. Lydia did nothing wrong other than perhaps be annoying to some people. Bro, you've been starting it. And then you screamed. And like, I want to be good to both of you. After that, we hung out. It was bad for a week or two, for obvious reasons. It was hard to do the show. Ian, I had met in Connecticut, and we wanted him to help us with gaming development because I was making investments to expand the company. And we actually have a card game we're working on with Seamus. And Ian was a wild card, but I was like, I can't do it. You know, do I just cancel Timcast IRL and shut it down and never do it again? It didn't work. Bands break up for exactly this reason. And people often wonder, like, the band was so good. Why did they break up? And it's like, that's why. It happens. So I thought to myself, I need to make sure that Adam has every opportunity and succeeds. Because this was not an issue of me wanting Adam to leave. We lived in the same house. This is not an issue of me wanting him to I just want my buddy to figure it out, make his own thing. He started a show called Timcast. I think it was called Timcast IRL. I said, hey, come on, dude. You shouldn't use that name. Like, you got to be your own thing. We hung out. We had gotten dinner. We would eat vegan food every night. We were playing Magic the Gathering. It was sucky for a couple of weeks afterwards, but we started skating again together. We started hanging out. And, it kind of sucked. Adam started using... Adam had started his own thing called Timcast before he had left the show. And I say it legitimately that he left the show. He wasn't fired. I still paid him. But he said, if I don't get my way, I will leave. That's it. People are like, Tim fired him. No, I kept paying him. Paid him again, like a bonus structure. But then he started getting a base salary, doing his own show, keeping all the revenue, separate pay, all of that stuff, using the Timcast IRL name, using our equipment I bought for him, a computer I helped him set him up with. And we decided to move because of the lockdown stuff. And Adam and his wife still worked for Timcast. We got along, we hung out. Nisha's great. We decided to move to the castle. And I said, what do you guys want to do? You can stay in this house for free forever, or you can come with us and we can live in our wooded winter wonderland and Adam, be in the crew, man, and be a part of what we're building. And like, you own your thing now. This is what I thought was ultimately the best thing. Adam was getting paid a lot of money, and it was really cool to see that I could elevate my friend to this point because he's certainly talented. And it did scare me that something, this show was taking away what I had built. It's true. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that wasn't true. But I also kind of felt like maybe the solution after all of this is Adam should get 100% of the money that he makes. I should get 100% of the money that I make. And he shouldn't have to work with Lydia, but I'm not going to fire Lydia because he doesn't like her. So I didn't fire him. He kept getting paid. I built him a studio. He launched a show. He brought on guests. Sometimes the guests overlapped. It was kind of difficult in that regard. And even though I was paying him and paid for everything, it's like, it's all yours. All yours. And he started doing really well. We moved to the castle, to Western Maryland. And I said, I want to launch the vlog now. We're going to do a daily vlog because, of course, I've been saying this nonstop. And Adam, will you be the main guy? I will pay you $250,000 per year, and you will be the main guy. But I don't know the exact details. It may have been that I said, if you work for the company, you can't run your own businesses. I understand that may be a non-starter, because the problem in the first place was that you were dependent upon me for the paycheck. And the solution seemed to have been, you keep all your own money when you do your show. I think for that reason, Adam said, I can't do the vlog. I can't do it. I later came to him and said, why don't you come back on Timcast IRL and we'll start it up again? And he said, you want me to, he's like, you're asking me to come back on the show. And I said, yes, but I cannot pay you the same bonus structure. And this is a reality. I cannot be the person to do the morning show and all the research and then come in and give, almost half of all the money to somebody who doesn't do the heavy lifting. I'm not trying to dig at Adam for that. The original intention of the show was that I was going to give him rev share because he was going to be doing production. He did not do production. He did not do production ever. A few times, that's unfair. A few times. But when it came to the point where I'm just like, I will pay you a lot of money to be on the show, but I can't give you a rev split if I'm the one who's doing all the heavy lifting. And he said, well, think about it. And then he said, I won't do it. I can't do it. All right. I don't know what to say, man. He said a few things, and I feel like, everybody says everybody has their version of the truth. When they were still working for the company, Adam and Nishra, getting paid, Nishra helped me produce the song Will of the People, masterfully done, so incredibly good. Shout out. They were getting paid. And I explained to them, like, look, I don't want any of the, Adam was, I think he started doing his coffee thing. And I was like, I don't want any of this, any of the money. I don't care about the YouTube revenue. Even though I was paying their salaries. I was paying Adam a salary. And I was like, I could stop. I don't want to just give you guys money. Like if you guys want it, you can have it. Like, I don't want to fire you. I don't want you to leave. You're my friends. And so they just, kept getting paid for the year after the show ended. So never terminated. In the house the whole time, moved with us, stayed with us, hung out with us. Everything was good. When Adam moved here to the castle, long after the end of our IRL, with the Adam iteration, we were hanging out. There was a cat. The cat's name was Scuttle. I called him Herman. They called him Osiris. Everything was good. I recorded music with Nisha. We had jam sessions. We had events. I brought Adam a bottle of Pappy bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. Everyone yells at me when I call it whiskey. I thought everything was just like, we're going good, man. But one day, as we started hiring more people to expand the company, we were launching a website, and we have entertainment lawyers and corporate lawyers. They said, you need employees under corporate NDA. Anybody who works for the company. Anybody who lives in, anybody with access to long-term access to the building has to be under NDA. This is true for any major corporate media office. Even as a guest. We don't make our guests sign NDAs, but we do make long-term contractors sign NDAs. We have to. The reason for it is we want to start doing movies. We're talking, and I talked about this before. We're doing the Cast Castle vlog. We've got, movie stuff happening. And we had a meeting with Corin Nemec. Corin, you are amazing. He did the Cast Castle vlog episode. The ending, man, warms my heart. I hope we can get the Cast Castle vlog to the point where it's comparable to mainstream sitcom level stuff. But we're just a bunch of scrappy upstarts in a startup. But the ending of that episode, when Corin Nemec says his name is Jonas Quinn and he enters the Stargate, it hurt. It hurt inside. Corin, it hurt. Because I love Stargate SG-1. And to see even though it was a gag. For a brief moment, Jonas Quinn brought back to life. I'm like, I love Stargate, man. Anyway, we want to do movies. In order to do movies, you have to do negotiations. And in order to negotiate with producers and comedians, they expect confidentiality, same as we do. If someone comes to me and says, I want to do a TV show, here's the idea. It has to be solicited. We have to accept it. And there has to be an agreement between both parties as to what the negotiation terms are. If there's a person who has access, either because they're an employee of the company or a long-term resident or contractor of the property, it voids your NDA. It's not completely, but the advice we got from our legal was, if you do not have all of your employees under NDA, your NDA becomes unenforceable. Because if you have one employee who is allowed to speak within the company about the projects he works on, but not outside the company, and another employee who is allowed to speak about anything at the company, then you have no NDA. Person A is under NDA and says, wow, we're going to do Jurassic Park parody. He then tells the video editor, who's not under NDA, and the video editor can tell whoever he wants, we can't go after anybody. But more importantly, most of these contracts have something similar in them that says, you acknowledge you have full rights to enter into this agreement. If it turns out that someone at the castle was allowed to produce their own content, their own shows, and they were not restricted in access to information or confidentiality, we could not enforce, and thus no one would enter into a contract with us. I'm not acting like that's the absolute reality of how law works. All I know is that's what our lawyer said. And so the day came where, Allison and I went to Adam and Nish and we were like, it's kind of sucky. But there was no slamming a pen on the table with a contract or anything like that. It was, we don't want you guys to leave. We want you to stay and be a part of the crew and keep doing your thing. But we have to have everybody who's an employee of the company sign an NDA. And you guys are employees of the company. And they went, no, absolutely not. I won't do it. And I was like, okay, I've been paying you for a year. You do your own show and make your own money. I'm just basically giving you the salary. If you don't want to sign the NDA, then you can't be here. And that's not because I'm mad at you. It's just because we're trying so hard to build something. And I said, there's a house next door for sale, and I hope you guys buy it and come and hang out whenever you want. Keeping in mind, there's restrictions on what we can do because of the NDAs. And they said no. They had wanted to move back to Sweden for some time, apparently. And I said, okay, I'm sorry to hear it. Good luck, bro. And I paid the moving costs, which I think came out to like between 10 or 20 grand for them to move back to Sweden with all their stuff. And, the last thing I told them was like Adam had to change the name from Adamcast because it was derivative. And he's just got to change it, make something different. And that's when he left. That's the main story, I guess. I don't understand how, after all this time, I end up at probably like the worst moment possible. These people are posting an address they think is mine. I don't live there. A picture of a house that is not the same address. Yeesh. Trending. I'm being hit up by so many people. I'm getting strangers calling my phone, insulting me and threatening me, things like that. And at this worst possible moment, this guy who, I get it, man. We were good friends and things went bad and we both have our view of things. Would start talking about my girlfriend, my brother, bring in other family members, say lies about my relationships. Or maybe he's just wrong and for some reason decided it was appropriate to say things about my family that aren't true without knowing whether they're true or not. They're not true. And I don't even want to talk about what those things are. But he, of course, did. And it's like, this is not the core. It's funny because I tweeted, when you get successful, you figure out who, your true friends are and who's evil. And that had nothing to do with Adam. It has something to do with something else that's completely public and obvious. So many people probably, It has to do with a lot of things. Nothing specific, to be completely honest. Because I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression about what they think it might be about. It's just a general statement about how people that I knew since I was a kid, from back in Chicago, all of a sudden are just saying, like, there's a dude I've known for so long. He lived with this guy, skated with this guy. Crazy how he just one day, out of nowhere, without giving me a phone call, starts making up lies about me. And I was like, I don't understand. Why would you do that? Like, I never said anything bad about you. The last thing I ever said to you was like, later, homie. See you on the flip side. The last time we skated together. It's funny, there's that saying about how, like, one day you'll pick up your child for the last time and you won't realize it. That's a sad saying, man. And I just don't understand. There was one day where me and my buddy skated for the last time, and we didn't know it. And that's so brutal. This is not Adam, by the way. But for this guy to then, try and just destroy my life, this other guy. It's so hard. You know what I mean? To deal with this so many times, over and over again. There was a guy, so fucking hard to talk about this. This is my Tim Pool Cries on YouTube video. Every YouTuber has to do it. There was a guy that I worked with and lived with. Another guy. And then one day, started publishing my text messages with him. Lying. And I was just like, bro, why? What did I do to you? Any of you? Nothing. What was the last thing I ever said about Adam? We want to open a coffee house and sell his coffee, use his coffee brand. I wish him the best. And then he wants to come out and start spreading lies about my family and my relationships. Like, what did I do? Life's tough, but this is the hard reality. I wanted to take stock of my life. And it was a long time coming because it's not all about Adam. Adam plays a big role because he did a big live stream last night. I was hanging out with my friend and working over there's a lot of work that happens. Making phone calls, trying to set up, an amazing show that I hope happens. And I don't, peddle in the drama stuff. But it got me thinking about the threats that I receive for the work that I do, the doxing of my house, the constant barrage that you get from betrayers and mutineers. And then at possibly one of the hardest times for my family with the death threats we're getting, Adam decides to do that stream. And it was just like, I bust out laughing in the casino. I get a text message like, bro's on a 6-hour, at that time it wasn't 6 hours, but they were like, bro's doing this several hour stream, talking about your personal life and your family and your relationships, making accusations about you. This dude that I haven't talked to, who has never aired his personal business and kept it between us and tried to support him and help him and just make sure that everything was good. And when he had to leave, paid his way to leave because I was always there for him and I wanted him to succeed. But he thinks it's appropriate to talk about your girlfriend and your family and spread things that aren't true because it makes him feel better. And I thought to myself, for all the people who keep doing this, what did I ever do to you? Now, some people have said, clearly, Tim, it's your fault. If all these people around you keep doing it, then perhaps if you smell crap everywhere, check your boot. I know. They're right. I should check my boot. I should absolutely check my boot. And I learned a very important lesson. My girlfriend, Allison, is amazing, if you're listening. And she runs the administrative side of the company, which, it wouldn't be possible without her. And every day we learn a new lesson about why the corporate world exists the way it does. Because you don't know who your true friends are. And there is no, they say don't mix, friendship and business, things like that. It's true. Because even my friends from back home in Chicago, some of my best friends who thought it was appropriate after decades of knowing each other to come out and make up lies about me because it gives them something. you realize that some people are just evil and they never were your friends. And then I have friends who are like lefty right now even. And the left says, that's not true, Tim's lying. It's like, literally true. And they're some of my best friends who are as loyal can be. And that's what I talk about. Like talking to my friend who's like a lefty and like we say these things because we listen to each other. And so what I started thinking when, I saw that I get a message from someone that Adam was doing the stream and making like personal accusations that weren't true, that had nothing to do with our business relationship, that were just damaging, defamatory and to my family and to my personal reputation. Like not just like about my family. I'm like my brother never sued me. That didn't happen. I was just like, take stock this holiday season of what you're thankful for. And I am very thankful for a lot of things. People like making up lies is what they do. Nobody, I don't live here. I don't live at the castle. Briefly did when there was substantially less people here. Don't live here now. I live in West Virginia in a private house. And then people say things like Tim moved all of his employees out to a commune or something. It's like, no, but only a few people actually live in the building. Like, I think three people maybe I'm wrong. It's a very, very big building. There's a residential component outside of the office stuff. The employees all have houses and they show up for work at 9 and they leave at 5. And the vlog is a joke. Like the vlog that people are like on the weekends, literally no one is here. It's an office building. I don't know. People make things up. So to come full circle to where we are, I didn't do this segment. People are saying damage control and people are saying it's because of Adam. Adam added to it. I think if you guys like his content, you should watch it. I think my advice to Adam is to stop talking about me. I've asked him to come on the show as a guest before. He doesn't want to do it. I think my advice to Adam is to focus on the news and the stories and the culture and make your show what it should be, something bigger, and make a lot of money for yourself with your company. And that was always the case. That's my advice. But this is also about some other stuff too. It's just that, over the past year, it's really, really piled on. And I think it's because, as I mentioned, this was the biggest month we've ever had on Timcast IRL. There are people who are claiming like Timcast used to be so much bigger, back when Adam was on. And that's not true. It literally isn't true. Certainly we got a lot of concurrent viewers. That may be largely due to COVID. A lot of it, I do believe, was due to the dynamic that we had, which was good. The biggest shows we ever had were after Adam left. Several of them. The show became something different, became something more. And the biggest month we ever had, by all means, go on Social Blade and check, was this past month. And that's just what we're going to keep doing. Grow the company, expand. The advice I got from everybody, traditional corporate advice. Say nothing, Tim. Say nothing. Don't debase yourself with drama. And I said, that is the correct thing to do. But I'm a stupid person. And I like transparency and authenticity. And I like when there is an issue, talking about it. So that's why I decided to do it on this channel. Because this channel is like a secondary channel for me. I know a lot of you watch it and I appreciate it. I mean, if you're watching it, you probably subscribe. And, I didn't want to put on the Tim Pool channel because this channel was always designed as kind of like runoff. And so here we are. And Timcast IRL will never do drama passively. Like when I say like, oh, the Young Turks were talking about me and I'll mention it, but we won't dedicate segments to people talking about me because I think the show should be for you and about the things that concern you. And then this channel is kind of just like, oh, it's a channel I have. And, I appreciate it. So it's tough out there, man. The reason I wanted to do a segment like this is because it's impossible to ignore everything all the time when this is the world we live in. It's impossible to ignore the people who, on a dime, decided to hate you. People you've known your whole life, and you don't know why. They just hate you. And then you have to deal with it. And, I can tell my family and my true friends, my real friends, 1,000,001 times, ignore the threats, Ignore the drama. Don't read the comments. It's only going to get worse. The company is growing. We're hiring more people. We're launching new shows. This is the way it's going to be. If you can't handle that, then I don't know what to say. There are very few people in this world, maybe one or two, where if they said it's either me or the show, then I would say, so be it. And I would shut everything down and I would leave. And I would go live in my van down by the river in my privacy. Some of the most common advice I've ever gotten in my life in doing business, standing atop a roof in Chicago at a party with a bunch of politicians years ago when I was a young skateboarder. And these men were all very wealthy. And they said, the biggest mistake you will ever make is making yourself public. Take the money and run. Power likes to be hidden. You won't regret it. In various forms. Fame is the worst thing you could ask for. It's cool when I go to a casino and some dude recognizes me and fans me over and I meet a friend and we gamble and I have a tremendous night where I get a straight flush and we're winning and like all the troubles wash away of all the threats while the whole world is saying they want to kill me. I'm laughing my ass off, high-fiving some dude, nailing the Jack Queen King of Diamonds. And it was like $1,400 or whatever. I tossed a black chip to the dealer and to all the players at the table because I'm not there, to make money. I'm there to have a good time and to create a memory for everybody. The money you lose is just the cost of smiling and laughing with the people around you. That's a great thing, and that's the advantage of notoriety, is that there are people who care about you, who believe in you, who protect you, and who cheer you on the whole time. But for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that is, for every good person who smiles and waves, there is someone who brandishes a weapon or, makes a threat. And you have to move, get away from these cities for a variety of reasons. Not really just the threats. I don't like the laws in New Jersey. COVID was bad. We tried securing a building. The building fell through. There's a lot of complicated stuff. But, mo money, mo problems is true. The reality is this. It's not really mo money, mo problems. It is, in a sense, like with taxes and stuff and like paperwork and accounting. But the reality is the more people know you have money, the more problems you'll face. Dave Chappelle talked about it when they announced that $50 million contract or whatever. He said he was like a marked pig on a train. He couldn't go out. All of a sudden, they were telling everyone on the TV that he was worth all this money, that, he didn't have it. So he just said, I'm out. I don't want to do this. He wasn't a culture warrior, though. He's just like a truth teller, comedian kind of guy. I love that line. He says, the Second Amendment's just there in case the first one doesn't work out. He's a good dude. And he was right. But he could choose to walk away from that. I could. And don't think I haven't thought about it. It's hard. You make a certain amount of money and you know that you never have to want for anything. Why trouble yourself with death threats every single day? Why trouble yourself with people trying to find your address? So the reality is you could be super rich as long as nobody knows who you are. None of your friends and none of your family members know you have money. Golden. That means you can't spend it, but you can pay your medical bills. You can do things, That's the real advice, I guess. If you want to make money, do it in a way where no one realizes you have it. So you never have to deal with the evil people lurking out of the woodwork trying to destroy you for no reason. Don't tell family members, because you'd be surprised when family members turn on you. That's the truth. And don't be famous. I think it's funny when people are like, I commented on Adam's stream. I said, let's do a stream. We'll talk about it. And then it's like, no matter what you say, people are going to smack talk you. They're going to say, you're not telling the truth. He is. No, whatever, dude. It's like, there's literally no point in addressing it, because the people who don't like you will always not like you. And the people who like you will like you and they'll defend you. And so it's just like, what's the point of doing it? And so PR wise, there's every advantage in just saying, do not tell the stories of anything. Do not talk about private work. Do not talk about this stuff. And there's also so much more with other people and other employees. But I don't air, the personal laundry of people unless they want it to be. But I thought, just to give you my thoughts, not everything is about addressing one moment of drama. I wanted to do this just because it's the holiday. Mainly I'm bored, sitting around drinking coffee like, this is boring. I haven't done any shows over this past week. Whew, super boring. And, it's therapy, right? I've long talked about that too. I've said a couple things. I'm a guy complaining about things on the internet. Basically having my therapy session on the things that bother me and the things I see to the people who watch, because I'm tired. Like when I see some media outlet lie, I want to scream it out loud. They're lying. And so I yell at you. Turn it to a business. How about that? There's reality. People don't like you. People never going to like you. So be it. If I can take some stuff in the chat and, it is what it is. I think it's funny. I'll give a shout out to Anomaly because he's been saying some stuff about us for a while. I don't know Anomaly. The only thing I really knew, I think didn't he do like a song where he mentioned me in it? He got invited on the show. I didn't handle the booking. I don't know what happened with the booking. I didn't know there was an issue with the booking until like the last minute when some tweets came out or something. And then I'm like, guys, I have no idea what's going on. So I apologize. I don't know what happened. And if, employees here were acting inappropriately, there's only so much I can do and can know about. And, I don't want to call it an excuse or not an excuse, but it's reality, man. I don't handle the booking for the show. I literally don't. There's a few guests I might DM and be like, hey, would you want to come back on? And like Dr. Drew followed me and I hit him up with like, hey man, like it'd be super cool to have you on talking about this stuff. 99% of the guests, the day of, I find out they're booked. I don't handle the travel. I don't handle any of that stuff. And I don't know about communications between these individuals or like what happens. And sometimes guests fall through and I'm just like, I don't know. So apologies, Anomaly. I have no idea what happened, but I'd love to have you on at some point. I think people, I don't know. It would be really cool if we did like, here's a reason why I really wanted to do this segment, this live thing. It's like to explain that. I know a lot of people, the people who like the show don't need to justify. The people who don't like the show are going to hate it anyway. But I firmly believe that it's beneficial to mankind for people to understand how things are behind the scenes and how people feel and how things work. So like addressing the Anomaly thing, to like just get all the drama out there. Like he was tweeting about it and I'm just like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Like I know something happened, but I don't know. Like he was trying to get booked and then it didn't work out. My understanding, like what I knew was that he was trying to fly in like on the day of and then the flight got canceled or delayed or something. And he wasn't going to make it. So I was told, hey, the guest's not going to make it. Their flight was delayed. And I was pissed. I was like, what? Like, why aren't they flying the day before or first thing? And it was like, well, it was a mistake. And I'm like, okay, well, that's dumb. What are we doing? It's like, we'll have someone fill in. And I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know. Anomaly would have been a way better guest. But, and then there are other people who just like, I don't even know why they hate me. Like, just like spreading gossip and rumors. But that's the reality of this business. We try to pay over market to a lot of people for the jobs they do. Some people here work harder than others because the tasks they do is a reality of business. I want everybody to be able to have their basic needs met. I want the people who work on creative projects to get paid proportionate to the revenue generated by those projects. For the most part, Timcast IRL is the flagship. The Tim Pool Daily Show went from being a top 50 podcast to being off the charts. And that's the thing, too, that I'll address in the beginning. Like, you really got to understand the reality of watching something like that happen. I spent a decade doing this work in news. I created a podcast called The Tim Pool Daily Show. I was getting 300,000 per segment on some videos, and I was getting 500,000 on my Tim Pool channel segments. The Tim Pool Daily Show reached peak, like, number 34 podcast, like top 50. And then I launch a new show, which is supposed to be different with a rev share, but due to the way it's formatted and the lack of pre-production, I end up just putting all of my energy from the Tim Pool Daily Show into Timcast IRL. And what ends up happening is the Tim Pool Daily Show fell off the rankings. And then some people even say I was thinking of canceling one or the other, but some people like the conversation format. Some people like the monologue format. So I keep them up both. That means I work 16-hour days all day, every day. And even from Timcast IRL for a year and a half, it was even on weekends, No days off. 0 days off. None. Never. Unless I was injured. And so watching something like that and being like, oh, hold on a second. I can't answer this. 1 second. Let's see. Okay. Sorry. Somebody was calling me. What was I talking about? Yeah. Okay. So like watching, I built, just working literally by myself, a top 50 podcast monologuing, a daily show. And it was getting 100,000 downloads per day, I think. Depended, between 50 and 100. And on YouTube, I was getting like 500K on Tim Pool, and I was getting like 300K. And then we launched Timcast IRL. And then all of a sudden, all of my viewership is going to this new show and this new channel. Not all of it, but it's splitting between people who are like, I like conversation better. And then me being like, hey man, I don't want my like decade of work to shift into a totally different show and then have me just lose all that money. You know what I mean? That's the truth. It's not the ultimate reason why, Adam left the show or anything like that. But like anybody who spends a decade building a business is going to feel like, oh crap, so I told him very early on, like I mentioned, it was like March. It was like the beginning of March or end of February. And I said, hey man, if I'm the one doing all the pre-production and my podcast is siphoning viewers from my channel where I do this work and make this money, like I need that to invest and build a company and like hire people. I can't just start a show that includes you and then give you a percentage of everything. That's why I asked him to come back on at a high salary, but not a percentage, because like you get paid for the work you do. But again, ultimately it was like the difficulty of having two people who are your friends and one is screaming at them. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. People are saying I'm lying. Like, okay, man, people are saying stuff like they don't like IRL because I scream at Ian. And I'm like, you're right. Early on, I was mean to Ian. I feel really bad about that. Ian's such a cool dude. We still get into arguments, but y'all were right. People were like, Tim, you are being nasty. And then I would read these chats and then be like, I am being mean. I should not do that. I need to like assess. You know what I mean? I'll tell you a couple things to give you like a breakdown of how stuff works behind the scenes. Some people are like, I see the chat, Tim, let the guest speak. Let the guest speak. Ah. The best show ever was Milo Yiannopoulos because he just talked. That's the point of what IRL was supposed to be. I can only do so much. I wanted to do a conversation show because it meant the workload was divided. Other people would be involved, having their voices heard, and I could talk less. So when Milo started speaking for the first time in a few years on this show, when I need to address some things, I'll address some things. So I'll I'll address him. But for the most part, like the man's going to speak because if the guest wants to speak, they speak. The challenge we have with some guests is one of the reasons the show works. I am reading your comments. I am reading your super chats. Periodically, I'll be like, we say these for us, but I want to read the super chat from this person. And I think this person makes an important point, and we want to have it part of the conversation. Some people, are telling me, like, they'll post Z's in the chat, like, move on. You've talked about this. We were debating abortion with Seamus, and it was like 15 minutes, and they were like, guys, we're done with this. And then I'm like, okay. Like, the audience is clearly expressing an interest in an expansion upon this. Oftentimes we'll have guests who don't assert themselves. I cannot make them speak. I'll look to them and point. And Luke, you'll know Luke does this. He'll say something like, did you want to have any thoughts, so-and-so? Because we do want them to. But in a 4-person conversation podcast, you need to see it in their face and see the expression that they're going to see their... I heard a noise. Hold on a second. You need to see their expression and know that they're ready to speak up. Oh, okay. I'm getting called because I have extremely big news. 1 second. Oh my God. I just got one of the best text messages I've ever received in my life. That's why they keep calling me. I got a text. Oh my God. Y'all are going to see something. I'm excited. I'm excited. All right. You know what, man? I wish I could read all your super chats. I do want to read a little bit. I just got a text message. I gotta get to work. I gotta make a bunch of phone calls. I gotta losing my mind getting stuff done. Because like even on the weekends, we don't bring people in and secure some of the interviews we do without working nonstop all day, every day. So here's what I want. I want to travel to stars. I want humans to be space colonizers. I want humanity to travel, to expand, to develop. We need more people. More people. The depopulation people, they're insane. Malthusianism or whatever it's called. Elon Musk is completely right. And I'll say it again, I absolutely admire the man for two reasons. He's correct about population growth. We need more people. He's correct about space colonization. He's hit the nail on the head with the hammer. And he's put up so much of his money to buy Twitter and win. And take the risks and call it out. He can do better. But, you know. So, deeply respect that guy. Here's what I want to see. I want to see his success. I want to see all the people that were my friends stay my friends. I want to see Adam succeed. So you guys can watch his show if you want. I want respect for personal boundaries. Like, I don't know what my relationship has to do with Adam's story or why he did that to me. That's the reality of living like this. And it's going to get substantially worse next week. I know. And so not a day goes by that I don't have to ask myself, what's better? Sitting in this room, growing this business, saying the things I say, with all the bad that comes with it, or would it not be better to simply retire after making the first million and just say, I know I owe nothing to nobody. With this money, retiring with more than most people have, I can live in a van. I care for very little in that regard. Material possessions are not something I'm super concerned about. And I can hang out and just go fishing. And there's a lot of people that I love and respect and in my family that would prefer that. Especially when people are threatening to kill me. So I'll tell you this. You know what I don't care about? These Antifa soy boys. We're going to find out where you live. I'm like, oh, okay, come to MAGA country mountain, bro. Please don't. I'm kidding. Like, you're going to get hurt. These people out here, I'm looking at the forest right through this window. You can see it's right there. You know what I do care about? Is when the people who were my friends for the longest time decide they want to hurt me for no reason. It's like, okay, homeboy owes me money. I know how I can hurt him. I'm going to spread rumors about his girlfriend. Great. We had a bad business relationship. I'm sure I deserved it. I'm sure I deserve all of it. You know why? You know why I deserve all of it? It's true, because I'm rich. It's not fair to anybody. It's not fair, says the universe, that you live a life free from harm. I've never felt that way. I don't believe that. I believe that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so the reality is this. I work very, very hard, sacrifice a lot. And it's only because of you that it turns successful. It's only because of people and humanity that all of the collective voices of those who like what I do contribute a tiny piece which lifts me up in an insane way. No one is deserving of that power. And of course, with it comes karmic justice. I don't believe that if you're a good person, only good things happen to you. I believe that everyone will experience conflict, strife, happiness, and success. And so that means if you're going to live a life where you are wealthy because you've succeeded, there will be in the universe a karmic balance that you don't get. And a lot of celebrities believe this, so they tip 10 grand or whatever. But that's not hardship. That doesn't, you can't pay away the karma. You don't get to be free from harm. For the average person, their struggles are, I can't afford my bills. A real problem for people, medical bills. I believe we need to solve that problem. I don't have that issue because I'm successful. And so it's not fair that I would just get to be free. I don't know if it's fair or just or the universe, but I view it as like universal balance. There must be something that gives me strife and conflict because you do not live, this is not the way life is. You don't get to just be living in a marshmallow factory where it's nothing but, fluff and love and, all that stuff. I should read some of these super chats because I do have to get this phone call. Holy crap. What do we have here? What is this? Grafty says, this rooster is staying in the coop you have built, Tim. Buck. Shade and sweet water to the entire Cast Castle crew. Let's see. Will someone pick up the mic? Worst teaser ever? I don't know if I can actually go through and read all these. There are some people who are not fans of Adam, but I don't want to read those. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Roberto Jr. is second best junior. That's a tough call, man. We love you, Raymond. We do. But Roberto Jr. is one of our top talents. If we started disparaging him, you get very... Okay. Yeah. I appreciate all the super chats. And I don't want to leave without reading so many. But I don't want to read the ones that are disparaging. I want Adam to succeed. I've always wanted Adam to succeed. I wanted to have him run the Cast Castle vlog and be the main guy running it. But I understand why he didn't want to do it. It doesn't work when, it was funny. I saw a comment. They were like, Tim is rigid and Adam is fluid and they're both alphas. And I was like, no, certainly not. But Adam is his own, he's a leader, not a follower. So it doesn't work. In the end, that's all that really matters. He knows what he needs and what he wants, and that's why he needs to have his own show and should not be working for my company. The same is true for any high-profile, high-top talent person. We cultivate talent here. We're trying to. People that we think are awesome, and we want them to succeed, and I want them to get paid for their success, and I don't want their money. I don't want to do an IPO for this company. I don't want to sell shares. I don't want to take investment. So it would work if I just said, you get paid dirt and we get everything. And then I put all the money into whatever I wanted. But Timcast IRL and Timcast are the flagship that make most of the money. I'm not going to give that to somebody else. The hosts that we have for the new stuff we're launching, when we get to the point where your shows generate $1 million, like, don't need it, don't want it. I'm content. I'm happy. I want to build new stuff. I want you to have access to it. And you know what that means? I've been warned about this from entertainment lawyers. They're like, you realize that means they're going to quit the moment you give them a big payout. I'm like, I guess. Yep. So get them under contract now. Yeah. So we do have employment contracts because I don't want people to take the investment money. We're going to invest a lot of money into getting people advertising and shows and building studios for them. I only ask I get that money back if/when you become successful. That's what the contract is for. I learned the hard way. If you don't get a contract, even when you do. All right. Man. Kevin says, hey, Tim, thanks for the great life stories. You should check out the Punk Doc, Another State of Mind. What is it? Oh, hold on. I got to scroll. Mind about Social D and Minor Threat tours from when they started. Early punk days were raw and creative. Ghost Crusader says, Adam is a good actor. The only truth he said last night was, if Tim wanted to do a show again, he would have to come to my show first, and then I would do his if I got all his super chats. I just think that's weird. Like, I don't understand what that means. I said I would do a stream with him, and then people were like, you're grifting. And I'm like, I do a stream on his thing. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll just do a stream. it is what it is. We don't do a lot of ad reads. Let me tell you a secret, guys. I don't know if it's a secret. A bunch of people wanted to sign us. Buyout, sign, license. And I said, sounds good, sounds good, sounds good, because there is no in business. There is no, quote, no in business. Only terms. Business people understand that. If I called you up and said, I want you to run the cashier at, I'll say this. If McDonald's called you up and said, we want you to run the cashier at our Omaha branch. We'll fly you out. And this is your job, 40 hours a week. What would you say? A lot of people say, no. Wrong answer. Because there is no in business, only terms. The correct answer, how much? What do I get? What's your offer? Now, I don't think they're actually going to call you and offer you $1 million to run a cash register, but here's a simple thing. Someone called me and said, we want you to run the cash register at McDonald's. I'd say, how much? If they came back and said $15 an hour, I'd be like, thanks for wasting my time. Have a nice day. They said, what do you want? I'd say, to run a cash register? I got a big company. I got people rely on me. You'd have to pay me $30 million a year. Then I could use that money to support the employees and not leave them hanging. But I don't even know if it's worth it because I like what I do. So I don't know if there's a dollar amount. But if you're someone who's looking for a job, the answer is just how much. And the worst case scenario is you don't take a job you didn't want to take. So there's no in business, only terms. I don't care about the super chats, the money. I appreciate the money. It is good. It proves that we rank or whatever. But we don't do ad reads. We've done a few. Some people are complaining about established titles. I'll immediately contacted our agency and said, what is this? Figure it out. Because I'm not okay with what people are saying. Until I know for sure, I don't want to say too much because I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. We've done 6 reads per month. Watch any other show. Even Joe. Rogan, what does he do? 3 reads per spot per episode, 3 reads every ad in his episode. He does a bunch. We do on the podcast version. I think there's 6 ad reads. It might double up, so it does 2 commercials at once. Many of them are programmatic. So we do programmatic ads. If we did sold reads, I think this company would probably make $30 million a year. So what happens is these networks, they come to us and they say, hey, we're going to give you all this money to sign with us. And then I say, show me. And they send me the contract. And the contract says, you'll have to do 3 ad reads per episode, live. And I'm like, bro, I am not going to do Timcast IRL. And then at 8:30, be like, hold that thought, Luke. Today's sponsor for the 8:30 segment is, we do the 1 ad read in the front when we feel like it. Because I want to balance premium quality with, succeeding in the business. I addressed the Adam stuff. I hope this was more informative than just that. I don't expect anybody who are fans of his to like me. You're allowed to hate me. It's fine. I wish he didn't do it at the worst possible time. I wish he didn't drag my family into it with gossip that's not true. And that's reality. And I wish for him the best. And y'all can pick up his coffee, Krigler coffee. And and people are saying that, I don't know exactly everything he was saying, but people were saying that they were mad because I was shouting out his product. I just don't understand. I thought we were solid. We had an issue. But I hope there was more to this than just that, telling the story about how all this came to fruition. There's, of course, little things here and there. Could probably write a book about it. I really got to take this phone call. So thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. Sorry I couldn't read or address more, but hey, we're gonna see you around. I got a phone call. Y'all are gonna be very happy. I'll see y'all next time.